Hello and welcome to the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 6 hours live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me for the next 6 hours is Brad Clank and Sam Kuma as well, who is on the cameras. We should also be saying hello to Adam Barth later on in the event. But of course, today's event all about raising awareness for epilepsy. We're going to have plenty more to talk about on that in the future. But Brad, just a quick word. I mean, it's fantastic whenever the sim racing community comes together for events like this to raise money for charities, and we see it quite often. We had an event very similar to this just last week, and this is absolutely fantastic that we can put on this race for such a great cause.
Yeah, it's always good to see these events come around, and they're quite frequent amongst the sim racing community now, which is good, especially towards the tail end of the year after the iRacing special events sort of wrap up on the road side. We find a lot of special events happening towards the end of the year, which is good. Fills that void in the calendar for the drivers and raise some awareness and hopefully some funds as well for some valuable causes like the one we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick rundown of the format of today's race. We've got IMSA cars, basically. So we've got the DP. Admittedly, it's a little bit of an outdated IMSA car, but still, it's kind of the most representative car we've got for that class. And also, it is a terrific car. It's the Corvette Daytona prototype. Then we've also got the GTE and the GT3 cars as well. 6-hour race, and we should be ending relatively near the evening. I believe we're actually 5:15 already. This is on the 15th of May, so we should end in pretty much complete darkness. So there'll be a good opportunity to show off the iRacing time of day changes. And just a reminder of why we're here today. Of course, raising money for epilepsy awareness. And yeah, this event was put on after the league organizer was kind of affected by this issue. And I believe we've got the link for the donation in the description below. A few £100 is the aim for the donations, and we're already at 200 quid. So absolutely, if you could donate anything to the cause, we would super appreciate it. And yeah, we'd be going to a fantastic cause, of course. Currently in qualifying, 10 minutes, and we've got a couple minutes to go. Drivers can set 2 qualifying lap times, and I mean, this is quite a combination that we're familiar with, I guess, Brad. This IMSA combination, DP, GTE, and GT3. And this will be something that these drivers are quite familiar with, of course, with the Daytona 24 hours as well, back in January.
Yeah, it's I quite like the Daytona prototype myself. Unfortunately, the participation with it in IMSA series is sometimes not so great, so it doesn't get used very often. But it's I find it's a really fun car to drive. It has enough power to sort of get into trouble on the corner exits. No ABS, so that makes it nice challenge to drive. I did the 6-hour at the Glen in that car, and we had an okay result. And yeah, it's always good to see it out on track, and we've got a few of them out there today, so that should be good to see. That's the difference between the classes around this track.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, personally, probably my favourite car in the game. Just as you said, fortunately, participation not particularly good for it, so it's difficult to find a split with a decent amount of drivers. But a few years ago, I did take part in a series, which was kind of incorporated within the official series, and it was absolutely great fun. In the Daytona prototype, and always interesting trying to get past the GTEs and the GT3s, because there's not a big time difference between these cars, particularly down the straights. The GT3s is almost as fast as the DP, and the GT is actually the slowest quite often at the very end of these straights. So will be an interesting class dynamic. Unfortunately, only 12 teams out here today, but no, should certainly provide a decent event still, as Blake Trewick just finishing his lap time there, and I believe qualifying is coming to an end. And so we can go straight to the grid now before this 6-hour event. And on pole position in the DP class is RLB Racing. 2 seconds clear of sim racers for Mental Health Motor, lining up on the front row alongside them. Then it's North Sim Racing RTD24. I'll try to better pronounce that at some point, in 3rd place. And then Utterly Ridiculous Racing, who were just watching there, starting in 4th place. Then in the GTEs, we've got Enter Name here, which I appreciate that name, it's a good name. 5th place overall, first out of the GTE drivers, and then it's Indy Autosport Petit Road in 2nd, H&H Racing in 3rd. Hopefully we'll also have Ice Dragons Racing as well. They didn't set a qualifying time, but hopefully they will take the start as well. And then in GT3s, we've only got 2 of them, unfortunately. Team Mandy and Maconi Motorsport. 2 seconds between the 2 of them in the qualifying session. We've also got a couple other DPs as well. GTSL in brackets red, and also Stella Acante 99. Hopefully they'll be taking the start. Is this a standing start? I think it is. Well, this is an unusual way to start a 6-hour race. So, and it's an unusual way to start an oval race. But it seems as though that is what we are going to do. And in fact, we do actually have 12 cars on the grid at the minute. So most of the drivers who didn't take part in qualifying have fortunately taken to the grid. We've just got Vicencio Rea for Stella Acante 99, who will totally take the start. And certainly take a screenshot of this, because it's not every day that we see a start like this. Going to be tricky off the line, as Vicente does take the starts then for Stella Acante 99. So here we go then. 6 hours of racing at Daytona. Eric Malero for RLB Racing from the pole position. And we are away. The drivers struggled to get away on the banking, but they've done a very good job of it in the end. And it's a superb start for RLB Racing, pulling away from the rest of the field. The DPs will try to make up some places. Almost a contact there. Now spinning round is Corker into the inside wall. Fortunately, doesn't pick up too much damage, but I think has towed back to the pits, which may have been the wise decision. Otherwise, that would have been a very awkward reversing situation. Now I've got a couple of the GTEs coming together. That's Derek Holland for Indy Racing, and also Ryan Sharp as well. Again, fortunately, they haven't picked up too much damage, so they'll be able to get that fixed at some point and should be able to continue without having to do an extra pit stop. So already some collisions out here, Brad, but well, at least Eric Malero with a very comfortable start.
Yeah, definitely an interesting start with these starting in these cars. May have caught some of the guys off guard. I'm not sure if that was the plan to start off with, but if it was, hats off to him for trying something different. And we saw the classes were actually mixed up on the grid there as well, not separated, so it's made it a little tricky for some of those DPs that were further back to try and find their way through. Just that GTSL red car which struck a little bit of trouble, but hopefully they'll get back out there. Things starting to settle down a little bit, so we'll start to get an idea of just the speed differences between the classes and how that'll play out.
Here comes Vincenzo Ria then, around the outside, and well, that's the strength of the DP car. Very quick down straight, it's a lot of horsepower. The slow speed corners, not a massive advantage, but certainly a lot of downforce, as you can see. It's kind of a mix between a traditional prototype and also a GT car as well. And whatever it is absolutely superb. And he is making his way up through the order. Just one more GTE to negotiate, and then he'll be able to catch up to the back of the other DPs. He currently occupying the top 4 positions. Rare that you see a field dominated by DP. The DP cars, but it's fantastic to see. Brendan Corker, by the way, still in the pits. Hopefully he will come out at some point. Also Derek Holland in the pits at the moment. They are 11th and 12th as just making the move there. Holland does fortunately get back out onto track. He had the little collision going into turn 2 on the opening lap, and I'm sure we are going to see someone crash on the pit exits at some point today, but fortunately that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it can be a tricky exit, that one. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't hit that wall before myself. Anyway, hopefully we don't see too much of that today. We're on board with Utterly Ridiculous Racing here in the DV, and just head through the bus stop. See the car sliding around a little bit there. These prototypes do have a reasonable amount of downforce, but they're not as glued to the road as they may appear from the outside. They do still move around quite a bit. That's another reason I do quite enjoy driving it.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, running such low downforce around this circuit to get good straight line speed, particularly the rear end's going to be very slidey for these drivers. Of course, so many slow speed corners as well. You kind of set up for this part of the track, and then once you get to the bus stop, can be a completely different beast. It's a great challenge, whether you like Daytona or not. Certainly, the 24 hours is quite a unique event, and of course, massive slipstream effect. So even if he is a little bit slower at his torque, then can certainly keep up. He seems to have the pace advantage at the moment, though, for Utterly Ridiculous Racing. So he can take his time. He's got a few hours to get this overtake done. And you can see he's really closing in. But they are getting caught at the moment by Vincenzo Rea. And that last lap, Rea was 2 seconds faster than these drivers. So I imagine Troic would quite like to get past sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's a little surprising we haven't got more entries, given that the first special event on the calendar next year will more than likely be the Daytona 24 again. So I thought some teams might want to get some laps in, just get their eye in a little bit, test a few things out. But I'm sure the guys here still put on a good show for us. This track does lend itself quite well to multi-class racing, because you've got the oval section where you can sort of make the passes a bit easier if you're patient through the infield. But then in the infield, you've also got four hard braking zones really heading into the infield, and then in the infield itself. So there's overtaking opportunities within the same class because of that and the slipstreaming. But then it just makes the multi-class experience a bit easier than some other tracks. Road Atlanta, Petit Le Mans is one that comes to mind, which can be quite difficult and clumsy with the multi-class situation there. The first sector is really hard to get past.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly, for that entire first half of the lap, extremely difficult to get any moves done. Can be a little bit tricky through these next handful of corners, because the track very much narrows. Fortunately, we don't have any endurance races around Belle Isle. I mean, that would be very tricky. Oh, it's very running wide. Somehow, Filippini doesn't lose a position. He did well, actually, to keep that car on the circuit, because he was far too late on the brakes, and he locked up the brakes, but managed to get the car slow. But this is a proper 3-car battle now. And, of course, we speak about the slipstream. Of course, overtaking opportunities very possible. But the bus stop and turn one, pretty fast corners. And you don't want to go side by side too often, otherwise collision is very possible, as McConey just dropping down the order a little bit. Of course, only 2 GT3 drivers out here, unfortunately. McConey for McConey Motorsports. Hopefully he's got a teammate, like a brother or some kind of, or sister, of course. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe the team's just named after him. But hopefully he won't be doing the whole 6 hours himself, as we've got more side by side. This is a great opportunity now for Rea just behind, because he's the only one with a slipstream currently. Failing to get too close to these 2 drivers at the moment. You might just let them battle it out amongst themselves. And going through there is Filippini, so he's hanging on to that position really well. Rea half a thought of going for a move down the inside into turn 1, but thought better of it. Of course, the last thing you want is damage, and of course, if you do get damage in these cars, whilst the need damage muzzle isn't out, can be pretty much impossible to get everything fixed at your pit stop. So just avoiding contact at all costs is the aim of the game right now.
Yeah, pretty much all of these cars won't quite fully repair if you have quite a significant accident. So yeah, you really want to minimise the risk of that if you can. But it's good to see these guys battling it out hard early in the race. Got to say, the Utterly Ridiculous Racing livery looks great on that car too.
Yeah, I think he's going to go straight past it. We'll have a very nice view of the side of that car as he goes down the inside through the oval section. And that is pretty easily done. So Stella Cante 99 team up 7 places from their starts. And straight across the circuit then is Trorik. You'll get a hefty slowdown for that one. And you can see he's barely in shot anymore. You might just see him right in the background going through the oval. So that's really dropped him off these guys. You can see Filippini really struggling to even hold that position. Fortunately for him, Ray not interested in picking up the slipstream, but just shows the acceleration, the closing speeds we can get down these extremely long straights at Daytona. And Ray
I'm surprised
quite close now.
Surprised he's not trying to pick up that slipstream more, not necessarily to make a pass at this stage, but to do some fuel saving. These cars, as you can hear from the engine, they're pretty chunky sounding V8, and they do like to have a drink of fuel. So yeah, any opportunity to save might play up to your advantage later on strategy wise. Oh, we've had a spin there from Filippini.
He almost made that same mistake a couple of laps ago, I think, as this time he loses out, and he's going to lose out to Trorik as well. Oh, sorry, that was Korka. He's a lap down after an early setback. So he now unlaps himself at least against that cut. And it means that Rhea is up into the top 3 places, and which is kind of where he belongs. He seems to have a nice pace advantage over those couple of DPs. And he can catch up to Eric Mulleroy and Ole Sangvist later on. He is already 15 seconds off the lead. Big field spread so far.
So yeah, you can see just how easy it is to get caught out with these cars, particularly on those tighter sort of horseshoe hairpins that we have on the infield here. What little downforce they have on the car is not going to be very effective in those slow corners, and then not having ABS can be pretty easy to just lock up the fronts and run a bit wide, miss the apex. Unfortunately, in that instance, you just had the car continue to rotate, but gathered it up without any damage, so that's the main thing at this stage of the race.
Yeah, absolutely is. We should check in on the GTE cars at the moment. Drew Becker for enter name here, still leading the way. He's got a comfortable margin, that's why we haven't given him a whole lot of airtime, but he'll get some airtime later on, I'm sure. It's a lot of airtime we'll be giving these guys. 6 seconds ahead of Jeremy Stanley for HH Racing, and then it's Ryan Sharp in 3rd place out of that class. And then we move on to the couple of GT3s, and we've got Derek Holland in 4th place out of the GTEs. He is catching up to those GT3s. In fact, actually on that last lap, Holland was faster than everyone faster than all the GTE cars. So he's got good pace out there. Unfortunately for Derek Holland, thanks to Lawrence Shagnesi on the chat for letting us know that he had to serve a penalty for a jump start. And that is one of the issues, of course, with a standing start. And he's managed to just jump the gun a little bit there. Got a stop and hold penalty. But, and I've said this a few times, it's a long race. He's got time to bring it back. He is already 40 seconds off the lead, so we're not going to see him challenging for the lead anytime soon. But as long as he keeps it out of harm's way, he's still going to have a good chance at the race win today. And also thanks to Jeff McConey, who has told us that Greg and I are going to be doing the full 6 hours today, and he is his younger brother. So I'm pleased that McConey Motorsports does have 2 McConeys in it. I feel like it'd be a bit one-sided if it was a McConey and, I don't know, an Allen or something. But no, it's good that it's a proper McConey family team, not something that we see a whole lot on iRacing. And there's a few kind of brotherly pairs. Certainly PJ and Jake Sturgis come to mind, and we've got plenty of other pairs like that. Mark Fletcher and his brother. I feel really bad for his brother because I can't actually remember his name. But certainly Mark Fletcher and his brother are also a good combo, and there's a few others. So no, it's good to see a family teaming up here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. In the Lotus 79 series, which I raced in a bit last season, there's a father and son that race in that, Todd and Keith Herner. And my team actually has 2 brothers
Cool.
in it. So
Can you
yeah,
imagine any of your family members doing iRacing with you? Would you trust them in a 24-hour race?
no,
No,
not
yeah, right answer.
So on board with Eric Malero here in the race lead at the moment for RLB Racing. He's not resting on his laurels in the lead there, pushing quite hard, the car sliding around on the exit of turn 1 and the first hairpin there.
Taking a tight exit from turn 2. I know that's a tactic that can be used quite effectively. A few kind of lines that you see on iRacing, which you don't really see in real life, and as often it is kind of taking a very tight exit to some of these corners. I think Monza is another good example. Through the Parabolica, you often see drivers taking a very tight line on the exit there, particularly kind of GT3 cars. I don't know if that's a fault of the simulator, but it just seems like a slight indifference to real life. But no, I'm sure Miller getting the most out of that car. He certainly seems to know where to position it. Filippini and Choric actually very close to one another. 4/10 of a second. I just quickly looked down and it was red on our time screen. You should have access to the live timing, by the way, on in the description, or I'm sure Sam will post it in the live chat, and you'll be able to keep up to date with everyone's lap times, what the gaps are. And this gap is very small. Troy going down the inside, going over the bumps as well, almost onto the apron. They are dead level as the utterly ridiculous racing car moves ahead. Filippini's got decent straight line speed though, and they are still side by side as they head into the bus stop. Seemingly, both drivers interested in keeping this position. Who's going to back out of it? It looks like Troik will have this one as straight across goes Filippini, but Troik goes wide. And he's going to have it. I imagine Filippini will hang on to it despite having to serve a slowdown.
I think they'll both have a slowdown there.
Yeah.
If you go across the grass there on the exit of the bus stop, quite often you'll get a slowdown there as well. So yeah, I think they may both have a slowdown there. So, but yeah, it's good to see the guys having a pretty big battle there and almost playing a game of chicken as to who was going to break the latest heading into the bus stop there.
Well, it seemed like the latest driver on the brakes was Filippini, but he didn't take the corners. Ray Hasanoff, he was good pace did Vicencio Ray. He was actually 2 seconds faster than Ole Sandqvist on that last lap, who is the car ahead of him. But a little bit of an excursion off the circuits. But yeah, certainly those two drivers at the end of the back straight, both braking too late, it seems. So I think they both lost that game of chicken. As Ray tries to close gap, currently 7 seconds that gap. The closest battle we've got is Filippini versus Troik. I imagine these two might start closing in on one another once again. Filippini managed to resist that attack on the last lap. It seems as though Troik on this one closing back in was a 10th faster in the first sector, 10th faster in the second sector, and 3/10 faster in the third sector.
So yeah, just back in the GT3 cars, just noticed that Chase Barry just did a lap that was significantly faster than the Marconi Motorsports car, and just trying to close that gap down. Not separated by too much there, but yeah, he's picked up 2 seconds in the last lap, so not sure if that was a mistake from Marconi or Barry's just really starting to find the car underneath him and pushing on to try and pull that gap in.
Yeah, good to see these two are quite evenly matched at the moment. Of course, we wait to see who is strong in the second half of the race when they change drivers. Hopefully Jeff is not going to let the team down, the family down. I mean, it's the family names at stake right here, so no pressure, guys. But no, hopefully they'll do a good job. I mean, second place. It's like looking good for a podium, so to say. Our Makoni mates and Team Mandy as well. Dare I say, even second place, perhaps they could be claiming. So best of luck to them. Of course, just a reminder, kind of why we're doing this event. Of course, Epilepsy Awareness this event is about all about raising money and for that cause. And
Oh,
we've just got a car off the circuit, a GTE. That was Ryan Sharp just going off the circuit. Of course, we have got a link in the description where you can donate some money, and honestly, anything you can give would be massively appreciated. Currently, just quickly look and see what the aim is. So, goal is $2,500. So far, $200 raised. Anything you can contribute to that total would be massively appreciated. And well, hopefully you're enjoying the racing so far as Troik does go past Filippini. And that was quite simple. Was that Filippini picking up a slowdown?
yeah, I believe so. The closing speed was quite high there, so. But yeah, despite the odd mistake here and there, these cars still yet to be separated by a great deal on track. So that's good. We'll see the positions change, and it'll be interesting to see how those driver changes play out in the race. Whether teams decide to sort of split the race into halves, or just drivers doing like a single stint, like one tank of fuel each, or they might do double stints or go back and forth that way. So we'll see how that plays out. That's part of the fun of endurance racing and the unpredictable nature of it when you have those driver changes happening. And you can see people are pushing on quite hard. That's Sim Races for Mental Health Motorsports car with a slight error there from the looks of it. Just coming off the infield. Getting
Yeah,
back up onto speed up on the banking here.
Vincenzo Ray made a mistake earlier on in the lap, went off the circuit, and then Ola Sandqvist made an even bigger mistake. And this is quite close, not anymore, because Raya has nearly put it into the barrier, and he's got to be careful of these oncoming other DP cars, and he's going to lose enough places. I don't know if there's some oil down there, but Filippini making the exact same mistake again. Fortunate that he doesn't hit the wall there, and they do get back going, thankfully. That was all a little bit chaotic. And after that, it means that Sarkvist is still in second place. Troik moves up to third. Ray in fourth, and Filippini a little bit detached now in fifth.
You do see that so often in the races, though. A car goes off in front, and the driver coming behind gets caught out by it or distracted by it, and might just get on the brakes a little too quickly, a little bit too much brake pressure compared to what their normal rhythm. So it's quite easy to lock the rears, which looks like that's what happened there. Turn the car around. So it's always the way. You see a car and you think, I don't want to go near that car, but if you're looking at it, that's usually where you'll end up. And here we go, the GT3 guys are side by side, and we've got a prototype and GT car following behind. So getting the true multi-class experience here around the banking of the oval.
Yeah, this is for the lead, of course, as the DP dives through the middle of them. That was Mallory, the DP leader, as Barry trying to consolidate that overtake for Team Mandy. And going wide there is Greg McConey. For McConey makes spots, and he drops down in second place. So Barry seemed to be a little bit faster a few laps ago. I think he spotted it, Brad. He took about 2 seconds out on one of the laps, and since then has been plugging away, caught up, and now into the lead. A little bit surprising because he was dropping back in the early stages, but now the car number 11 has the upper hand, it seems, and already pulling about 0.7 of a second ahead. Making this situation a little bit more difficult is Ryan Sharp, because he's in a GTE car, which, for anyone who isn't familiar, is the faster GT car out of the GT3 and the GTE. And he's trying to pass the pair of them after making a mistake earlier on. But around this circuit, there is a small difference between the GT3 and the GTE, because the GTE is very quick down through the fast corners, but there's not many of them around this circuit, and it doesn't have ABS either, I believe. And so, yeah, there's not really much where the GTE can pull an advantage.
Yeah, no ABS on the GTE cars, so if the GT3s do have a bit of an advantage in the braking zones when it comes to that. Just looking at the lap time, so far the best time from the GP category is from our leader, and that was a 1:38.23. Quickest lap in the GTE field at the moment is a 1:43. Yeah, 1:43.47. So there's a significant difference in pace between the DP and the GTE around here, with banking probably providing a lot of that difference. And then in GT3 we've got 1:45.0 is the fastest time from Chase Barry there, so it's quite a small difference between the GTE and GT3 cars around here.
Yeah, certainly seems to be the case. Ryan Sharp moves ahead in his GT though, and will set his targets on the next GT3 car then of Chase Barry just ahead, and then he's got another 16 seconds to catch up to Jeremy Stanley for HH Racing. By the way, these in terms of fuel stints, the DP cars should be able to go about 45 minutes. It's a very high fuel consumption circuit, of course, as well, Chinso Rea, it seems like he hasn't gone 45 minutes because he has disappeared as Rea. Or is he still out there? I struggle. I wasn't seeing him a second ago. Yeah, he seems to be stuck. Is Vincenzo maybe disconnecting from the session, unfortunately? So that is a great shame. One of the DPs out. But yeah, like I said, 45 minutes for the DPs, so they should be able to go. And then the GTEs and GT3s around the hour mark, probably 55 minutes to an hour. You want to pick up a slipstream if you possibly can. That will really help your fuel chances and mean that you have to only do 5 stops instead of 6. So keep an eye out on that. We're well away from any pit stops from anyone, though, at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's full throttle for a very, very large percentage of this lap, so trying to save fuel can be a challenge around here. That's where that slipstream can come in to a strong effect around the banking. Just be able to save a little bit with less air coming over the car and potentially lifting a little bit heading into turn 1. And Filippini's had another moment at the bus stop, so it seems like the bus stop's providing a bit of a challenge for the DP cars.
You're not going to find the track through that escape road. I've tried that many times, and I always forget that that little bit of tarmac leads nowhere near to the oval, but he does use it and scampers across the grass a little bit. Filippini having a bit of a rough time of it, currently running in 4th place for North Sim Racing, and actually gets overtaken then by Drew Becker for enter name here, the top GT driver, as Filippini returning to the pits, maybe getting some damage fixed. By the way, Vincenzo Rea received throughput fault to an unacceptable level, so that means that it was a sudden disconnect. May have been his connection, may have been some kind of hardware failure for him, but it doesn't seem to have been his choice to quit. So hopefully we'll see him join back to the session at some point, as Filippini coming in, changing some tyres.
Yeah, it is possible to jump back in the session when you do have a disconnect. Unfortunately, that is one of the dangers of endurance racing. It's kind of our mechanical failure, random mechanical failure that can happen in the world of sim racing. I have had it happen to one of my teammates in a 24-hour race earlier this year, and yeah, we lost 7 or 8 minutes tow time because of that. It's not ideal, but when it does happen, the car automatically gets towed back to the lane. So even if you jump straight back in, you can have to sometimes wait a little while before you can rejoin.
Yeah, it's an odd back to that. I've kind of had that before when disconnected from the session randomly. And yeah, sometimes you have to wait for an extra couple of minutes, as you say, to jump into the car if you're driving with someone else. The pains of endurance racing, but it can also be absolutely superb as well. Of course, putting in months of practice and then taking out on the first corner, that's probably the absolute worst. Or just any collision near at the start of the race. all these guys have done a good job at the moment. They're all running. They don't have any terminal damage, no engines blown so far. But these two are getting quite close to one another. Ole Sankvist versus Blake Trewick. This is the battle for second place. So earlier on, Trewick did catch up. Apologies, it was Raya who caught up earlier on. Tried to pass Sankvist, but made a mistake at the bus stop. I wonder if Trewick will have better luck this time. On that last lap, he was 0.8 of a second faster, so certainly seems to say he's got the pace to overtake.
Yeah, it does look that way. We've got Marconi brothers in the GT3 just in the lane. They're just coming out now. Oh, almost getting onto the grass there on the exit. Navigates the rest of that tricky pit exit without incident, so that's good.
Kind of painful watching the cars negotiate that pit exit. It's so narrow, and of course those curbs can cause a lot of damage to the cars, particularly these DP cars, because you can easily damage the splitter. And like we were saying earlier on, even if you do take the maximum amount of repairs to fix your damage, it won't necessarily be fixed for the car. But hopefully, when the new damage model comes out in just a few weeks' time for the 2020 Season 1 release, stuff like that will be improved, and we'll be able to replace entire parts rather than kind of just buffing it out as they seem to at the moment. The mechanics. Just a quick word, of course, on the next season. I guess quite excited about the new tire model and the new damage model. Brad, I don't know what cars those two elements are being brought to in a few weeks' time, but whatever they bring to will be much appreciated.
Well, yeah, we've got Marconi. So he's just come out of that the lane on the previous lap, so maybe getting caught out with tyres not quite up to temp yet. We just see here heading into the bus stop. Oh yeah, didn't really get the apex on the entry there, and the rear just kind of got a bit of a snap on it. So and looks like a change of position here potentially. So yeah, the utterly ridiculous racing team makes a move on the inside of the banking there.
Yeah, moves up into second place. I don't know if there's something about cows with sim racing, but of course we did have it was in my head a moment ago. The other Mad Cow Racing, I believe it was called. Who were an
Yeah.
extremely competitive team. Of course, had two cars in the Blancpain GT series back when that was a thing, the World Championship. So they were extremely competitive and had
Oh,
Buttercup and another cow name, I believe, in that series. There's
yeah.
Eric Malero out in the lead. He was pushing hard, we were saying, and he's had a bit of an off. Still 1 minute, or close to 1 minute ahead of the rest of the field, but clearly not everyone's, no one's immune to the difficulties of Daytona.
Yeah, it can be quite tricky there. He's still pushing on with it there, getting the rear sliding around through turn one. So good to see that despite having a healthy lead, they're still pushing on quite hard. Sometimes when you're in a comfortable position, it can be easy to sort of back off and then lose your rhythm. And sometimes when that happens, you can have quite a large error because you're not really focused as much and not expecting it to happen. Where when you're pushing the car hard, you're kind of feeling what the car's doing a lot, even though it might slide around and have a moment like what we just saw. You're probably more attentive than if you're just kind of cruising around. So you might. That's what I find anyway. Usually have a better chance of saving the car. So we've got Brandon Corker here, trying to make his way back after those troubles at the start of the race.
Yeah, of course, lost the
Currently
lap straight
fourth
away.
in class.
And just going back to your point about kind of the kind of casual nature that you can have when you're out in the lead, and the danger that can cause. Of course, when you're practicing for however many hours, days, weeks before the race, you're practicing when you're pushing hard. You're not used to driving at a slow speed, and so it's kind of unnatural to drive quite so slowly. And that is absolutely as you say. When mistakes can kick in for these drivers, and also, of course, in these DP cars, the faster you go, the more downforce you create. Often, the more sticky the car can become. So you do really need to get that balance correct. As yeah, as you said, Corker trying to make up some time. Yeah, he's only got 2 more drives to get past before he joins the rest of the Daytona prototypes. By the way, Filippini retired, sorry, lost connection to the server, unfortunately. And also, I believe we're having a few technical issues at the moment.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
sorry,
we'll be
just a
able to
moment.
adjust
You can
that.
keep commenting. I will need to reconnect.
Yes, we'll keep an eye out on everything that's going on circuit. But yeah, we just lost the sim for a moment. But yeah, we'll try to get back going again in about 5 minutes' time. So we will do a bit of a radio broadcast, I guess, for a little bit. And nothing dramatic is happening. You haven't missed the greatest overtake or the greatest crash ever we've ever seen on iRacing in the few seconds we've been down.
Just while we're having those issues, let's just go back to what you were saying about the damage model and the tyre model. Just earlier, we kind of got interrupted with the action on track there. Yeah, so it will be. I don't really have much of an idea about what cars will see that on, particularly with the damage model. The next build should bring the new V8 supercars, and we know they have been developed around the new tyre model, so they should come with that. So that'll be interesting. They should feel quite different from the current cars, which are a few years old now. So very different cars from a chassis point of view, aero point of view, and now we'll have a different tyre model on them. The Porsche Cayman GT4, which has been announced, hasn't been confirmed for this next build, but hopefully, and that should be on the new tyre model as well. The older cars, which have had the tyre model, I think it is a step in the right direction. It has increased participation in all the cars that have had it fitted too. There's probably a couple of little things they could still improve on it, but it's much improved over the first version, which was on the skip a couple of seasons ago. I wasn't too fond of that particular version of the NTM version 7, but yeah, the skip feels better now, and the GT1 cars feel quite good, and of course the Audi TCR is on that tyre as well.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty good, the TCR. I've heard some bad comments to do with the tyre model for the Formula 3 car, but I think that was in the first couple of weeks, so it's always difficult to really assess it based on a few comments in the first few weeks. I think by the end of this season, we should have a decent idea of what the tyre model is like. I think for the Formula 3, it's just a case of the tyres were so ungrippy initially, so slippery for the first few laps when they were down on temperature. Until you kind of got them up to temperature, especially off the line, it was almost impossible to, I say almost impossible, it was very possible, but it was tricky to drive the car, especially, of course, when on your first lap, you're fighting along with 20-odd other cars. So that was one of the criticisms, but hopefully iRacing will address that, and hopefully, certainly the GT3s, the GTEs, some of the more high participation cars will start having the tyre model rolled out. And like you said, the V8 supercar. Certainly very excited because we broadcast the Euro V8 supercar series, which, by the way, was on yesterday. It was a very good race at Bathurst, of all places. Quintessential V8 supercars, of course. Thoroughly recommend checking that out when you got a moment. But when the new V8 supercar comes out, it will really bolster that series participation and should be a good challenge as well. One of the most tricky cars to drive in all of iRacing, of course, the V8 supercars. So will be good to see that official series as well get a nice boost of participation because it isn't the most commonly used car at the moment.
Not in officials, no. It's very strong league representation in Australia, obviously. Some very long-running leagues and that have quite high participation with multiple splits. So yeah, there's still plenty of people driving the cars, but unfortunately they don't tend to jump in the officials very often. So anyway, as you can see, we've got, looks like our technical issues have been resolved, and we're just watching Jeremy Stanley here in P2 in the GTE class. It's quite a nice livery on that BMW as well. Interesting to see how this plays out with the Ferrari versus BMW in this, on this track, lap time wise. So sort of see how, if there's much difference between them. At the moment, it doesn't appear to be too much, about a second or so on their best laps. And obviously we've got Derek Holland in the Porsche as well. BOP adjustments this season for iRacing did resolve some issues for the Ford. Unfortunately, we don't see one of them out there today, but the Porsche probably has struggled a little bit this season from what I've seen. But a great sounding car. I drive it in a league at the moment myself, and yeah, the number one reason I picked to drive that car was the sound of it. It's intoxicating.
Well, because as the VOP changes, the sound never does change. So yeah, that's certainly a good reason to pick a car. And to give credit to iRacing, of course, they always get a lot of stick when it comes to the VOP and the GT3s for long spells, kind of stints. Sometimes the VOP is good, sometimes it's not so good. But for stints, it has been quite poor as the GT3 VOP. But these GTEs, they have seemed to have got it slightly better, and they do have their different characteristics. The Ferrari ought to probably be the strongest car around this track. It certainly was back at Daytona 24 Hours earlier on in the year, just because it's got very good top-end speed. But it seems that all the cars are usable. They're all competitive, which is fantastic to see, especially with so many league series in these GTE cars where you have to stick with the same car for the entire season. Of course, the officials always go to the whichever car is the fastest around that track, but for the league series, it's fantastic to see maybe one driver quick in one round due to their car fitting the characteristics a little bit better, and maybe someone else having a chance the next week. So impressive from iRacing that they've improved that quite a bit. I imagine they'll probably make a couple of tweaks at the next builds, but not too much has to be changed, of course. Another GTE would be very nice. We got the Aston Martin contract. Only the one Aston Martin though in all of iRacing. Any other GTE cars, sorry, that we could possibly nab in the future? You think, Brad?
I'm not sure. I would definitely like to see the new Aston. That would be nice. There's a new season next year, so there's sort of new evolutions coming for quite a few of the GT3 and GTE cars. So we may see an update to some of the existing marks, perhaps at some stage in the next sort of 12 months or so.
Yeah, certainly hope that's the case. And of course, on the topic of kind of cars out here today, of course we've got the DP car. It's a little bit old now. It's 5 years old, 5 years out of date perhaps. We really do need a DPi or a P2 car, hopefully, and then we'd get we'd have pretty much the whole set: LMP1, P2, and GTE. I mean, that is if you told someone about that a couple of years ago on iRacing, they would have bitten your hand off, and we are not too far away from that. So it would be fantastic to get a P2 at some point, and I imagine there is the interest from iRacing to get one because there's a few privateered teams. It's not battling with, you know, manufacturers and brands. It is just scanning an individual's team car. But so far, no progress being made. But I feel like it's surely just a matter of time until we see a P2 in iRacing.
Yeah, the HP. Oh, and Blake's just had a moment there. He's gone a little deep at the hairpin, and you can see the Holland in the Porsche behind following him too. Luckily, he just kept it off the tyres there. Hopefully, didn't pick up any damage. And we've got our race leader Eric Molero for RLB Racing coming into the lane for a stop. So almost 45 minutes in. So that's pretty much on the schedule that we expected for the prototypes. We'll see if the other guys follow into the lane this lap, or if they've been able to perhaps save a little bit of fuel. So Blake just making his way around the GT3 car here. That's the Team Mandy Mercedes. Yep, and he does come into the lane.
Yeah, so 44 minutes. I must say, as someone who is horrendous at strategy, for them to be pitching around this time, probably the most knowledgeable I've ever sounded in a broadcast before. That they're pitching roughly when I said about the 45-minute mark. Ola Sankvist carrying on, still behind Eric Malero. Apologies, and by 25 seconds as well. Kind of shows the advances that Malero had in that first stint. Of course, his teammates might struggle a little bit more, so it could still hot up this DP battle. But they did keep in Malero, of course, for that first stop, and so too Trorik as well. He's just exiting the pits as well as we speak, and we expect Sankvist into the pits on this lap, getting through that tricky pit exit, waiting for someone to crash into. I assume you haven't crashed in a big event there. I mean, practice happens to me most times, but in the races, I've fortunately never made that mistake.
Yeah, I haven't done a special event here because personally I only joined iRacing Season 2 this year, so I missed Daytona.
Ah, okay.
So next year will be my first chance to do the 24 at Daytona. I did do N24 Le Mans, Spa, and 6 Hour at the Glen though, so I've been racking up lots of endurance miles. But yeah, looking forward to Daytona. It'll be fun.
Wonder if Sankvist has run out of fuel, because he's very slow on pit entry.
Yeah, he's taking it. Sounds like he's... No, it doesn't sound like he's run out, but was taking it quite easy on the entry there. That could be a wise move though, because coming off the ovals into the lane, it's really easy to sort of overstep the speed limit on the way in, and you definitely lose more time by going over that limit than what you do by losing a little bit on the entry. So always better to be a little bit cautious if you're worried about that.
Yeah, and as he pulled in, something that's another thing in the build, which I don't think is going to be coming, unfortunately. But hopefully we will eventually have animated pit crews. We've got it for NASCAR, I believe, and maybe a couple of other of the stock cars. But unfortunately, nothing for the road racers currently. But yeah, we'd desperately like that to come just for us broadcasters, because often we struggle to identify whether whether a driver is taking tires or not. We can kind of see the driver go up on its jacks, but having 4 men running around the car and with their wheel guns and whatever, that will certainly be a very helpful visual aid for us. So fingers crossed that will be coming in at some point. I wouldn't bet against it being in this next build for a couple of the cars, but it has been quite slow progress from iRacing to incorporate that over the past year or so?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of over racing, and it just adds to that immersion a little bit more. And that was a little bit awkward through the bus stop there, as the Marconi brothers motorsports car there just trying to let the prototype through. But yeah, I raced the K&N car this previous week around Laguna Seca. That was quite fun. That car's actually on the new tyre model as well, so its participation's improved a bit. And yeah, had a few races there. It was quite fun. And yeah, you can see the pit crews on a lot of those oval cars. Oh, and looks like we've had a driver change in the GTSL car. We've got Dolmage in that car now, and you can see him bouncing quite a lot on the exit of the infield there, coming onto sort of the apron onto the banking there. So the car heavy with fuel again from the stop, probably contributing partly to that.
Yeah, of course, taking over from Brandon Corker. And also those bumps around that part of the circuit, I never know how to cure it. I've always had it in a few different cars. I'm sure you can change the springs and stuff, but I am not a whiz with the setup. Certainly haven't done too much racing over the past year or so, so a little bit behind all of that. Forgotten, which way stiff and which way soft for the springs. But always nice to iron that out if possible. But of course, for the most part, this circuit actually quite smooth, so it's kind of difficult to get that balance right. It's not like Sebring, for example, where all of it is bumpy, and so you just put the springs to quite an extreme setting just to cope with it as best you can. This place does vary quite a bit from corner to corner. Of course, scanned back in 2013, I believe, this place. So it's relatively up to date. Although the road course, so this was surprising to me actually. I don't know who told me this. I think it may be Marco Barbanero, our Italian co-commentator, our colleague. And he said how they didn't actually rescan the road course. So the road course is exactly the same as the 2007 version. They just updated the oval. So I was very upset when I heard that, to say the least.
Yeah, the differences are quite evident on the oval on the banking. The 2007 version is very, very bumpy compared to this. So obviously there was resurfacing work on the major redevelopment, the Daytona Rising project they called it, and they sort of renovated the facility. Just earlier when we were watching that prototype, does look like they've got that GTSL red car set up quite soft in the rear, because on the exit of one, as they come onto the infield there before, you could see it actually lifting the left-hand side wheel as it came through that corner. So yeah, it looks like the rear's set up quite soft, which probably to aid traction out of these slower corners in the infield and onto the banking. Try and conserve tyres a little bit there. It's running low downforce to get the speed. That can be detrimental to tyre wear and traction. So softening the rear of the car can help with that. But it's probably why we can see the car struggles on those bumps a little bit there. So if the car's really stiff, the bumps can unsettle it too much. But when it's rather soft, it'll ride the bumps a bit smoother. But it just depends on sort of the frequency of the spring rates, and that it can still cause an issue if you don't have that set correctly. And back to our race leader, Eric Molero. He's stayed in the car after that stop, doing a double stint at least. And back into his rhythm from the looks of it. Still sliding the car around a little bit, so he's not really not really slowing down a great deal. His last lap was a 39.45. His best was a 38.23 so far. But obviously the car's heavier on fuel after that stop. So he's still pushing on and not doing anything too crazy when he comes up against the traffic.
Yeah, he's now 70 seconds clear of the rest of the field and consistently lapping a couple of seconds a lap faster. So all looking good for our LV Racing at the minute. Of course, can have a crash quite easy, particularly the bus stop. The walls on the left and the right, quite near to the circuit, so can have quite a hefty whack potentially. For the most part, this circuit though not too bad. Also turn 2 as well, can have a collision. And of course, we've got traffic as well, so could make contact with that. But in terms of pace, they seem to have this one very secure at the moment. We are, I guess, about a seventh the way through the race. 6 hours, 53.5 minutes. I did A-level maths. That's further education maths, by the way. I got a C in it, but that did not me the that endurance racing. I wish it did, to be honest, because that would be very helpful. As Malone just poked his car down the inside. Very much. Can I come through, please? And Becca, the GTE race leader, obliged, although he didn't seem best pleased about it. Becca, by the way, 35 seconds clear of Jeremy Stanley, who's just about being overtaken by Jack Dolmidge currently for the GTSL Red DP car. So, of course, that's not a proper fight, as Stanley, in fact, comes into the pits anyway. So the first GTE into the pits for a scheduled stop, at least. And they are 54.5 minutes into the race. So my prediction of an hour, a little bit further off, but hopefully Becca will prove me right by staying out for a couple more laps yet.
Yeah, a little bit surprised to see the BMW come down the lane first out of those cars. We've got Holland in the Porsche coming down, so it must be quite similar between those two. The Porsche, from my experience, is potentially a little bit thirstier than the other GT cars. It is a very high revving engine, the flat six in that car too, so it's not surprising. It's partly why it makes such a magnificent sound. But we've got the Ferrari down the lane there as well, so yeah, all three of them, all three marks stopping on the same lap, so it must be quite similar. And we've had a little bit of a moment there for Blake Trawick in the Utterly Ridiculous Racing DP, again under brakes, just catching the grass with the rear, and around it rotates. Not too much harm there, shouldn't have damaged the car at all. No high curbs there or anything to damage the splitter or the floor. And just have to be a little careful for a few minutes to clean those tyres back up.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be something that changes next season. The slipperiness of the grass. It is very slippery, it's the grass. Anyone who's done any racing, particularly rounds, I feel like Alton Park is the worst. I don't know, Brad, if you've even ever heard of Alton Park so far. It's not the most significant track in the world.
I love Alton Park.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good. I mean, it's got a decent flow to it, certainly. But yeah, running wide around that circuit, I found, of course, because it's just lined by grass. And I mean, some places the curbs aren't particularly substantial. So kind of the limit of the circuit is the grass. Because if you dip a wheel onto the grass there, then you're going to go spinning round.
It does punish you, that track, particularly in the final sector when it comes to that. But I think the worst track for that for me is probably Brands Hatch, the GP layout.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, because you have the third to final corner, don't you? Where everyone crashes just due to dip the wheel onto the grass.
Yeah, it's just all those right-handers. Like once you get into the second half of the lap, you have to be so committed on them. And yeah, if you attack the curbs on the inside too much, then you end up running wide and one wheel on the grass, and it can be raced over there really, really quickly. So yeah, I mean they're both challenging tracks, but I think as far as dropping a wheel on the grass, I don't think there's anywhere that punishes you more than Brands Hatch. It's quite brutal.
Absolutely.
And we've got some other pit stops happening there. So that was Chase Barry. He stayed in the car, the Mercedes, so doing a double as well. Hasn't been a great deal of driver changes so far. Got the GTE cars rotating through. Derek Holland has stayed in the Porsche in P3 in that class. Class leaders are currently in the lane. So that may have been a driver change in that stop, I believe.
Greg Dale in the car at the moment, so, and it was so that's, I am getting very confused. So that's the 15 car. I somehow managed to completely miss them on the time screen. So it was Drew Becker, of course, in that car previously. So yeah, that is a driver change. Of course, if you do change drivers, you've got to abide by the fair driver rules. I'm not quite sure what the rules are, to be honest. It's quite confusing, but it's something like 80% of the laps can't be completed by a single driver if you're a two-man team.
Just saw Greg, just as he exited the lane there, looked like he might have crossed the line. A bit awkward, just trying to let the race leader through there as well. So just trying to get settled in to the car. Might just take a little while to settle down, but yeah, he potentially could have picked up a penalty on that exit. The GTE leader there, so just have to see what happens over the next couple laps to see if they end up having to serve a penalty then.
He has got a good margin, 40 seconds though, and I mean a stop and hold costs you a lot of time around this place, so needs to be a little bit careful out there if he has picked that up. It could change the lead in the GTE class. Of course, that enter name here have been leading this race from the very start. We'll keep an eye out if they do pit within the next few laps. But all the GTEs then coming into the pit. Still got the GT3s. In fact, actually, the GT3s have pitted. Because Greg McConey pitted quite early on in this event for McConey Motorsport.
Just looking at the stationary times in the lane, it looks like all the GTE cars took tyres. Looks like everyone's taking tyres pretty much. So maybe the banking guys are finding that they can't quite double stint these. Might be worth just checking in on the track conditions to see what kind of temps we currently have. Would have thought the track temp would start to fall a little bit because we started sort of late afternoon. So it's just about heading to 6:30. We've got, that was contact with the barrier there at the bus stop, so utterly ridiculous racing. P2 in the DP class, and overall they've probably going to have a little bit of a delay in the lane to get that car repaired after that one. You might be able to catch a replay of that in a second.
Yeah, that's they do get a fast repair, do these cars? So they got one over the entire 6 hours, which is quite risky to use it straight away, and that is actually quite a high speed impact into the corner as well of the car. So I mentioned that's caused quite a lot of stain damage. I mean, if there's a silver lining, the rest of the car looks okay, but when you got a completely broken corner as that, and that is great shame for Blake Chorwick and utterly ridiculous racing. They are now only 5 seconds clear of the driver behind of Ole Sarkvis. He overtook earlier on. He didn't come into the pits as you probably saw, and actually that steering wheel doesn't look too bad, but he is going to be struggling down the straights a lot, and we can just hope that he hasn't used his fast repair already. Otherwise, it's going to be a long 5 hours for him.
Yeah, fortunately it does look like the steering wheel's still straight, so no steering or suspension damage from the looks of it, but he's got the race leader behind now, so quite likely about to go a lap down. And we'll see, this will give us a good indication of how much that damage is affecting the top speed. Yeah, once they got wound up towards the run to the bus stop there, you can see Blake closing quite quickly there. So hopefully they didn't have any small minor repairs at that first stop to use the fast repair on, or they had that deselected hopefully to save that for a situation like this. Again, he doesn't come down the lane, he's continuing on, so you mustn't be too displeased with how the car's feeling.
Yeah, I can't recall if it's by default selected. I'm just trying to actually see in the sim right now.
Usually it is by default, yes. So it can catch people out quite easily. Same with the tyres. Once you come out of the lane, usually everything will be selected again by default. So unless you're running some kind of third-party application to help manage that, which some people do.
Yes, I mean a good one I hear is SDK Gaming, who of course sponsor and help us out on Apex Racing TV. Whenever there's an opportunity to give like a shout out to those guys, try to take it. So of course, if you feel like checking out, or if you want to have access to our overlay, which you're looking at right now, you can use that for your own personal streams if you want. So do check out the SDK Gaming site. Might even be a link in the description. I'm not quite sure, but lots of different uses. And of course, as we kind of got onto this topic, can calculate your fuel, can predict where you're going to come back out onto circuit. Very advanced app, and certainly more stuff being rolled out for it constantly. As almost a collision there. Dale getting out of the way of Dulmage. He almost went straight into the back.
Yeah, it was close. We haven't seen this car head down the lane again, so they might have just got away with that pit exit earlier. Must have been very close because the right hand side wheels were definitely over the line. So you'll definitely need to just be wary of that in the future. I think it would have only been another, half a tyre width or something probably, and that penalty would have stung them, because it doesn't take much to pick those up. iRacing's quite strict on those pit exit lines.
Yeah, sometimes it's a bit ambiguous. Of course, at Monza, you can cut the white line about halfway down the white line. So some tracks it's quite harsh, and some tracks, I think like this place, as you were saying, is quite strict. And most places it is quite strict, but seemingly getting away with it that time. But keep an eye out for the pit exit. Always can cause some issues, whether you are coming out of the pits and crash, or going over the white line, as we almost saw earlier on. Chase Barry, by the way, still leading the workhorse in the GT3s. He is 100 seconds clear of Greg McConey. So, don't know what happened to McConey earlier on, or maybe just struggling for pace at the moment. But us dropping back quite quickly. Of course, who took the starts? Greg's been driving all the laps so far, so Jeffrey will be getting in later on. I'm not sure if he's still on the chat, but lets us know kind of how his race is going. And also, of course, any team members who are listening along, if you feel like having a chat to us, want to have an interview during the race, hop into our Discord. I'm leaving a lot of this on Sam, to be honest, to leave links for all kinds of stuff. But I imagine there will be a link posted in the in the chat space soon. And if you want to have an in-race chat with us, then feel welcome to. It'll be fantastic to kind of get your narratives of this event, kind of why you signed up to the event, if certainly the course is anything to related to you. And yeah, will be absolutely fantastic to have a chat. So hopefully we'll see you later on. As yeah, of course, Chase Back still quite a bit ahead in the GT3 category, and of course, second place out of all the GT cars. We've got 4 GTEs still running. In fact, 4 GTEs started, 4 GTEs still running, and Chase Back is beating 3 of them, which is a very good effort. Currently, Jeremy Stanley trying to chase him down, was 1.5 seconds faster on that last lap was Stanley. Also, Greg Dale going quite slowly at the moment, just in a 1 minute 47 at the head of the GTE cars. Just seeing if all of his lap times have been like that. Yeah, so Dale's been really struggling. So just for reference, Becker was doing 43s, 44s. Meanwhile, Dale has done a 50, a 51, a 48, and a 47. I mean, if he keeps on getting that much faster, soon he'll be lapping at light speed. But for now, he's quite a bit off the pace, it seems.
Yeah, I did see him have a couple of moments early on and might have knocked the confidence around a little bit. So, I mean, they had the practice session before the race start, but with him not starting the car, perhaps he didn't get a lot of laps during the practice, and then when it's been an hour or more since you've been in the car, or perhaps you hadn't been in the car at all prior to the race today, that's can take some time to settle into a rhythm. He kind of had a couple of traffic moments right in those first couple of laps, which were a little bit awkward. So now he's got some clean air. We'll see what he can do. That lap was a 46.7, so starting to improve.
Yeah, like I said, if he keeps on improving at this rate, he will be absolutely flying by the end of the race. But he's certainly getting back to the kind of respectable lap times right now. Still about 3 seconds a lap slower than what his teammate was earlier on. But as long as he's safe, I'm sure he'll get a little bit faster as the event goes on. I think we mentioned it earlier on, of course, the in-sim time. Currently 6:30. In fact, it's gone past 6:30. It is now 37 minutes past 6 in the evening. The sunset should be, what, about 8? Maybe earlier than that, 7:30. It should get dark, I imagine, at about 8:30 for these drives. 15th of May is the in-sim date. And so you'll see it's getting a little bit darker. You'll probably already noticed. Maybe not a radical change, but certainly if you went back to the start of the broadcast, certainly the lighting has changed quite a bit. And of course, one of the best developments that iRacing has brought in, one was the day-night transitions, which today was a little bit overdue, but has been very good since it's come in. And also the lighting as well from iRacing. I think implemented at the very last build, in fact. And that has been a brilliant addition as well. As Jeremy's trying to really catch up to his rival at the moment. This is a GT3 ahead of him, so it doesn't matter too much right here. This isn't properly for position, but he just does get past anyway. And this is, yeah, so it's kind of for position, but they're different classes, so he moves ahead now.
You can see that the GT3 car doesn't give a lot away in top speed once they get around onto the banking there. The GTE car having a bit more downforce in these infield sections where it'll generally be able to gain a bit of time over the GT3. And you can see the Porsche just in the background there closing up as well. One thing I just noticed on the timing screen regarding the GT3s, Greg McConey, his pit stop was only 8 seconds stationary, so I don't believe he took tyres. So I think he's the only driver That is double stinging tyres. So, interesting to see how that plays out lap time wise. At the moment, it's probably not hurting him with that lower track term, because his last lap was indeed his fastest lap, which was a 1:45.5. So, sorry, the last lap wasn't quite his fastest lap, but he was only 4/10 from his best lap, so still doing quite consistent lap times, given that he didn't change tyres at the stop.
Yeah, it's, in fact, he's currently on lap 40, and his fastest lap of the race was on lap 38, so he is pretty much peaking right now, it seems, in terms of his pace, and no one particularly near to him at the moment as well, so that's certainly helping him out. Another 46.7, so a little bit further off the pace there, about a second slower than what he has been doing, but should be able to get back going very soon. He is, like I said, though, a long way off Chase Berry. He is over a minute and a half behind, but sees that being a little bit faster, usually by about a second lap faster. And whilst we are now over an hour into the race, still, like I said before, it's a long race. It's a long time to bring back some positions. So far, just the 2 retirements in this race, and really, they are no kind of drivers out of the mix as such right now. No one's multiple laps down. It is just a case of Filippo Filippini for North Sim Racing RTD 24 out of the race, and then also Vincenzo Rea for Stella Cante 99 also out of the race. Everyone apart from that, the other 10 drivers, still running around there quite competitively. An hour and a quarter into this 6-hour event. I think we might be able to get an interview actually with some of the drivers. So we are going to have a chat with one of the McConies. I believe
Hello.
Is this Jeffrey?
This is. I'm
This
the one
is.
out of the car.
Awesome. Well, I hope so. I mean, it's safe to say. But yeah, just yeah, give us an update about your race, because you're fighting for the lead, I believe, earlier on, but you seem to be a little bit further back now.
Right. So we actually had a bit of a fuel issue going on earlier, so we only had half a tank in there. We pitted, took tires, got everything all settled. We're on a full tank now. We're planning in about 12 minutes, 13 minutes or so. Greg's going to come in. He's going to pit. We're not going to take tires. We're going to fill it back up with fuel while we do the driver swap. I'm going to go out, run for about an hour, 50 minutes or so. And then once that fuel cycle ends, I'm going to pit again. Greg will take over. I'm actually going to head out, handle some stuff, and then I'll be back to finish off the race.
Awesome. So, I think the question on everyone's lips is, who's the faster out of you and Greg? I mean, I realise you're slightly biased, I imagine. We might have a chat with him later on. But can you, what's your opinion on that?
Well, it's surprising that Greg and I are actually pretty even. In this car, I mean, we've been within 0.2 of each other's lap times all the time. He's certainly not as aggressive as I am, and he'll probably tell you the exact same thing. I drive the car a lot harder, so I'm going to have to, in an endurance race here, sort of take a step back and know that it's 6 hours long and keep that in mind. And we've gone over this and talked about it. But he's giving me a perfectly clean race car. I'm hoping to give him one back. But that's for road racing. On the oval side, I mop the floor with him any day of the week, and it drives him absolutely crazy. But throw me in an SK modified or a Tour modified, and I can beat him pretty badly. Granted, I'm 6th in the world in the Tour mod, so maybe I'm biased there.
So yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for him, to be honest. I mean, having to live up to you for the most part. But glad that he's at somewhat on your path round here. What's your opinion on Daytona, and do you drive the GT3 much? Have you got any experience in like the Daytona 24 hours?
So actually not the Daytona 24. I haven't really gotten into road racing until lately. I've been sim racing on iRacing for a little over a year and a half now. or just under a year and a half, actually. And we didn't do the Daytona 24. We planned to do the Watkins 6-hour, and that's where this paint scheme is from. Didn't end up working out. So this is our first endurance race together. I've done Sebring, where we got wrecked out about 3 hours in, but this is our big race, and it looks like we're catching up to Team Mandy. We're hoping we can beat them.
Yeah, another strong lap time that last time out, 45.6, only a tenth off the fastest lap of the race. So it's certainly bringing yourselves back into contention. Is Makoni Motorsports kind of the team that you usually run under for road racing, or is this team just for a one-off?
Well, yeah, we usually do end up running Makoni Motorsports for oval and asphalt, or sorry, oval and road. We run Makoni Motorsports. Usually he and I run the team. We try and get some friends on to join us, but he and I started this team up about a year ago, and it's been a lot of fun ever since. A couple championships over on the oval side and a couple leagues. We have a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and just a word as well, of course, for the main reason why we're out here, of course, alongside having a lot of fun, of course, epilepsy awareness, trying to raise money for that. I mean, it's just fantastic that sim racing can kind of do this for everyone, and already quite a lot of money raised for the cause. And I mean, yeah, that must have been quite something good when you saw this event broadcast. As oh dear, well,
Oh no!
slight
Yeah,
issue
I just
for
saw
Greg
that
there.
happen.
Unfortunately, the tyres out there. The car looks fine.
Right.
We
I
might
don't
need to
think
get a
he'll get
replay of
damage.
that. But yeah, just a word as actually we're saying a replay. Just can you take us through your critical analysis of this?
He's very forgiving around other drivers. So when he had all those faster class cars behind him, I think he just got a bit worried and said, "Okay, I'm trying to get out of their way." They were expecting him to hold his line, and he was trying to get out of their way.
Ah,
It's no big deal. He overdrove the turn a bit, but no damage to the car. It looks like. I think it's fine. That's not something that worries me.
absolutely. Too polite there to the other cars, seemingly. Just have all the check. But no, yeah, like I was saying before, like I guess when you saw this event was for epilepsy awareness, I imagine it was quite a good reason to get involved.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been a big fan of this group ever since they started up. I've watched a lot of their streams. I raced. They held a tour mod race that they invited me to run in. I said absolutely. They put up a lot of races for a lot of really good causes. I think it's absolutely awesome the work they're doing and the raising money for charity. They're some of the best guys, and that's why we wanted to come out and run with them.
Absolutely. Well, it's been fantastic to speak to you, Jeffrey. Before we let you go, is there any shout outs you'd like to give to anyone?
Well, besides Greg for doing a great job so far, probably the Bottled Up podcast, available anywhere you get your podcasts, on Twitter at Bottled Up Radio. Just covers all sorts of racing, mainly NASCAR, but talk about all sorts of racing there. It's on the side of the car. And yeah, Greystone is on the car as well. They help us out a ton. And Makoni Motorsports, wherever you see us, come and say hello.
Awesome. Well, if you fancy like having a chat later on as well, you're more than welcome to join us in the commentary box once again, and also tell your brother to have a chat with us as well. But it's been fantastic to chat with you, Jeffrey, and best of luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you. I got about 5 minutes till I strap in, so I will talk to you guys after my stint. Have a good one.
Awesome. Good luck.
Thank you.
So that was Jeffrey Makoni for Makoni Motorsports, and they are second place out of the GT3s, but as they were saying, closing in on the other GT3 team, and plenty of time for them to perhaps still take this race victory. In fact, they see Chase Barry just behind, of course, a lap between the two cars at the moment. But no, once again, good to see a sibling team out on circuits.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate that that mistake there just earlier. I think moved offline and probably got caught out a little bit with the grip change offline there heading into the hairpin. It was just goes to show the way the traffic flows sometimes with the multi-class scenario. You can go from having clean air to being in a quite busy part of the track. pretty quickly, and we had about half the cars on track all around the same corner there when that incident took place. So, we've got 3 of the DP cars on screen here now at the moment, pretty close together. Blake's still in the Utterly Ridiculous Racing car there, struggling with that damage a little bit. So that was Jack Dolmage in the GTSL red car, actually going through and making that move for position. He's gradually been coming through and sort of making up lost ground from some misfortune earlier in the race. And we've also got Ola, is it Salmqvist?
I mean, I've been trying to pronounce that name all the way. Sankvist, I guess. Sankvist. I think so.
So he's in the Sim Racers for Mental Health Motorsports car there, who are the guys that are putting on this event. And that's actually for position as well. So those 3 cars, after an hour and 23 minutes, all quite close together on track. And looks like the GTE field here, we've got, so Greg's had a few moments in this stint, struggled a little bit, and they've started to fall into the clutches of some of the other GTE cars there. I think that move that we just saw there was also for position. That's Aaron Mather.
Ooh, and that was into the wall, and that is quite a lot of damage for Greg Dell, who was leading the race earlier on. Fell back down into 4th place in class, and now he has got a lot of damage as well, losing his bonnet. Hopefully he hasn't used his fast repair so far in this race. And also running wide right on the perimeter of the circuit, falls off the circuit again. This is tricky times for him. We didn't see him lose the lead. He did lose about 3 seconds on that last lap. In fact, he was 5 seconds off the pace on that last lap. But maybe had a spin or something, but has just been dropping back, struggling a little bit for pace in comparison to his teammate Becker, as Sankvist makes a mistake now, and he's dropped down to 4th place because of that. Here it was. He had Chorik right behind him. I believe that's Chorik, at least. And round he went, the car number 3.
That was close. We've just had the Team Mandy car into the lane, I believe, and that driver change, I think, just took place. So Jeff, that we were just speaking to, is now jumped in the car. They'll be trying to get settled in and find a rhythm. And as he was mentioning earlier, perhaps trying to not drive quite as aggressively as he would normally do, trying to get into that endurance mindset.
Yes, certainly. Pogo, yeah, in the car now. So should 33 seconds. So yeah, we're gonna have 2 Jeffs on the on the field, which isn't something, I guess, oval racing. We probably see that quite a lot, but we don't do a lot of oval racing on Apex Racing TV. So this is very rare. It's always fantastic to see as well the same name being repeated multiple times down the order, and when they finish like 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's absolutely fantastic. Bit OCD, but no, it's still very good. So Pogo now half a minute clear of McConey. Of course, those 2 teams wildly out of sequence when it comes to pit stops. But McConey basically, Team McConey having to make 1 extra, it seems, after not taking a whole lot of fuel from the starts of the race. As Jeremy Stanley is now the leader of the GTE class. He's under pressure from Derek Holland, who had to pit for a jump start penalty right at the start. It set them 40 seconds behind. He's been on a charge ever since, though, and he might just take the lead. It's BMW versus Porsche. You can certainly hear one much more than the other. pace around the outside for the Porsche car, but actually it's the BMW at the end of the straight which seems to have the advantage on straight line speeds. Holland tries to muscle his way around the outside, difficult because it's kind of a bit off camber, that turn 1 when you run quite that wide. And impressively there from Stanley, hangs on to the race lead. They've got Aaron Mathieu as well, only 17 seconds behind as well, who's got decent pace. So it's good to see such a competitive class out here.
Yeah, it's even though there's not a lot of cars on track, we're still seeing some good battles, which is good, and the cars still very close together after all this time. Just need to correct myself. I realised I had the wrong GT3 car that I was just talking about just before too.
I think it was the
course,
Jeffries, which must have confused.
Yes, so Jeffrey has actually just jumped in the car, in the Marconi car in the lane at the moment, and that driver change is happening now. So here we go, Derek Holland's getting a run up onto the banking here. We've just seen earlier that the BMW does look the strongest in the straight line. He's still able to hold the inside line and cut back across before the bus stop, so defending that position. And we'll see the second part of the oval here. Let's see if Holland's able to do anything in the slipstream. If not, he might have to start thinking about strategic way to do this. Save fuel in the slipstream, perhaps. Jump in the next stop with having a shorter stationary time, perhaps. Again, trying to make it around the outside. BMW's holding the inside, defending, placing the car right where it needs to, and manages to keep that lead through into the infield again. Got a DP approaching from behind that might break up this battle, perhaps. Just depends where you catch it.
Pretty much a carbon copy on that last lap of the lap previously, and it was no more successful. It just seems though when the Porsche pulls out from underneath the toe, it just doesn't really have any more acceleration. It almost hits like a brick wall, and all of a sudden the BMW starts to equalise and then even starts to have better straight line speed. That could be car, that could be setup, of course, as well. Although, must be said, pretty much everyone runs minimum downforce, I believe, around this track, run the minimum rear wing as Dolmage goes through. Comes up into second place now is Dolmage. Trorik has just come into the pits, I believe. Also, the leader came into the pits, car number 5, RLB Racing, and João Barbosa now in that car. He has taken over from Eric Malero, and Malero has put himself into a pretty good position. Or I think Holland's just got past Stanley, in fact. There we go, so Holland has got past, so just as we pull away. Typical, that. But no, has made a move at a slightly unusual place. Oh, sorry, maybe it was the bus stop. BMW, though, like we think, has got better straight line speed, and he's going to try to come back straight away. Will momentarily take back the lead, but can he make it work going into turn 1? The BMW, very drivable car, but it's not drivable around the outside there, and the Porsche manages to hold on to the lead, trying to come back straight away at Stanley, maybe just being as though if he doesn't make the move back straight away, might not have a chance later on. Goes to the outside now of his rival, trying to get a portion of his car alongside. But we'll have to wait, I think, until the oval part if he's going to mount another proper offensive.
Yeah, he's not giving up on that fight there. Just noticed we've got Greg McConey in the waiting area now, brother of Jeffrey that we spoke to before. So we might be able to get him and have a word to him. Hi Greg, Brad here in the booth with Sam. We just spoke to your brother a few moments ago before he jumped in the car. How are you finding the race so far?
Hey guys, yeah, the racing's going well. We had a little bit of a mix-up there early on. We only had half a tank of fuel, so that kind of set us off a little bit. But the car's handling well. I'm enjoying the race. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, despite the relatively small field, there's still been some great racing and some close battles. Just sort of keeping an eye on the battle for the GTE lead here at the moment. It's been a recent change in that, but yeah, you mentioned the issue with the fuel there. It's hard to say at this stage of the race, but that could always play back in your favour later on, just depending on how that works out closer towards the end of the race.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it'll kind of help us out a little bit to kind of offset us from our competition in Team Andy. So we'll be all right. I don't think it's anything we need to worry about. So like I said, we're out here having fun. That's the main priority today. We want to get out, see what Jeff and I can do together as a team. So this is a good test for us, and we're ready for it.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned that he's probably a little bit more aggressive in the car, perhaps, than yourself. Is that something you would agree to as well?
Yeah, he's certainly a lot more aggressive than I am. So it's a blessing and a curse, I'll say. It's a good combo for the two of us. The reason I wanted to get in the car first, I'm a little more conservative, like Jeff said and you said. So I kind of figured I'd take it a little easier right at the start than he would, give us a better chance of staying out of trouble. But I mean, going into the middle of the race, I'm not afraid to hand the car over to Jeff and tell him to go run.
We just saw that moment just towards the end of your stint there, heading into the hairpin. The track got rather busy there. Looked like it might have just got caught out a little bit when you went offline to try and let those guys through.
Yeah, that's kind of really what happened. I mean, I was planning to hold my line coming into the hairpin there, but I saw one guy dive low. The guy behind him dive low, so I dove to the top. Then the guy that was in third place of that group dove back up to the top, and I lost focus of where I was and just slid off a little bit. Luckily, no damage to the car. There was nothing that needed to be fixed, no optional, so we're good to go.
So you still have your fast repair up your sleeve if you need it later on?
Yep, yeah, we still
Yep.
got it. I actually just turned it off for Jeff, so we're all good. We got plenty of time. There's still another 4 hours or so left, 5 hours. So we're ready. We're just gonna keep that in our back pocket because you never know what'll happen.
And Jeffrey mentioned that he sort of focuses quite heavily on the oval side, and has only recently sort of started racing on the road side of things. Is that a similar story for yourself, or you spend a bit more time on the road side?
No, I kind of focus more on the ovals, like Jeff. We're big NASCAR fans, so we're running all those races constantly. But I've always kind of enjoyed doing some road running. Um, I got in with a group of guys running the 24 hours at Nürburgring. So I'm planning to go back and run that with them. And like I said, Jeff and I you'll probably see some more of us running these 6 hour stints as a 2-person team. Um, and I enjoy it. It's always fun to do something different.
Yeah, it's definitely it's enjoyable having that sort of team aspect to the racing too. I find on the endurance events, we've just seen a change for the lead in the GTE class again here. Um, Stanley and Holland are putting on a bit of a show for us at the moment. The lead in that class, Holland closes right back onto the back of Stanley. So yeah, was there any particular motivation to get involved with this race with the Epilepsy Foundation being involved, or you just sort of happy to jump on board with the sim races for mental health races, regardless of the causes? Or
Yeah, this is my first race with these guys. But we've I don't know too many people that have dealt with stuff such as epilepsy right now. But I'm always here to help out a good cause. I always enjoy it. Anything that I can do to help raise money or help make somebody better. That's what I want to do.
yeah, it's definitely one of the positives for the sim racing community. These events popping up. If anyone is watching would like to help out the epilepsy foundation, there's a link in the description of the video for details on how you can donate towards that cause, which is what this race is all about. And just a little bit of a moment for Holland coming onto the infield there as we were talking about that. He's gathered it back up and still trying to close back in here.
Yeah, it's been some good racing. I've kind of enjoyed, even though we're only racing one other team. It's always kind of fun seeing those guys that are running out around us. Certainly, we've seen a lot of good battles going on.
Yeah.
I've had the broadcast up on the side during this whole during my stint there. So
And do you think you'll use this as a bit of a primer for the Daytona 24? Is that a race you think you'd like to enter?
oh, absolutely, yeah. I've got a plan to hopefully get in it. I know a couple guys that are getting ready to do it, so
Ooh.
I'm looking forward to doing that. Hopefully, Jeff and I will be in the same car, same team again. So it's certainly this is a lot of motivation and a lot of fun and good practice and experience for what we'll see during the 24 hours.
You've just seen Blake Trawick in the Daytona prototype have quite a moment in the first sector. And unfortunately, Greg Dale looks to have found the wall in the first part of the bus stop as well. We've seen several cars lose the rear on entry, and I think, yep, that's what we're going to see there again. And that's quite a hefty impact there. So a few cars striking trouble around 90 minutes into the race here. So
Yeah,
just goes to
you're
show
seeing
you never know
the
what's going to
course
happen.
is loosening up a little, at least from what I was seeing while we were there. And I mean, you just saw two guys go. The first thing Jeff said as soon as he jumped in is how loose that car was. So
Yeah,
I not
you,
not it'll be interesting seeing the rest of this.
so you think with the track temp falling, because it's now down to 24 degrees, obviously we're heading into the night, you think it might actually be a struggle to keep temp in the tyres?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a little bit. Certainly, it's going to take a lot longer to get like you said, the tires heated up. So it's going to probably be going to 2 laps versus 1 to 1.5 now as we kind of go into the night portion. So it's just all going to be a matter of how you approach it. Some guys are going to make a lot of in-car adjustments to fight that. I know Jeff and we don't do too much with it. So the setup we got is the setup we have, and we'll take this thing through the whole 6 hours and make it work.
Not a problem. Well, thanks for joining us in the booth here, and we obviously look forward to seeing how the race plays out for you. How long will it be until you jump back in? Is Jeff going to do a double stint here, or?
No, I think Jeff's going to run a stint, probably about maybe another hour and a half or so, and then I'll probably jump back in the car, and then Jeff will be back, and we'll figure this whole thing out. It'll be. I only have 2 stints, and then Jeff's going to close it out for us.
Yep, not a problem. And best of luck for the rest of the race. And we look forward to seeing how it shapes up.
Appreciate it, Brad. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too. So that was Greg Marconi of the Marconi Brothers Motorsport there, and Holland's just had another adventure onto the infield. He's pushing hard to try and stay with the HH Racing car that's leading the class just up ahead. I've seen a couple of moments just in the last sort of 15 minutes or so there, Sam.
Yes, and we also saw the Blake Troy car, unfortunately, seemingly retiring from the event. I think he managed to smash in the front of his car earlier. Unfortunately, he didn't come away with any steering damage. Unfortunately, spinning at turn 1, really hitting the rear corner of his car significantly, and out of the race he potentially is, unless he's got his fast repair still available, but that's going to be extensive repairs for him if not. Teammate Schwark, he's back into the race today for enter name here. Also had a bit of an off. They were leading the race earlier on with when his teammates, just remembering who his team was, it was Drew Becker, of course, leading earlier on. Then Greg Dale got into the car, struggled a little bit, but hopefully Timo Schwartz can get them back into contention. They are now 2.5 laps down, though, on the lead after taking a tow back to the pits. So not looking too strong for that car, and you can see a little bit of damage, I think, still visible on that car, as we were saying earlier on. Whilst you can take all the repairs, it won't necessarily be 100% fixed, and of course, the optional repairs can take many minutes. So just getting the required ones done, it seems, back out onto the track, and hopefully we'll see plenty more of them in the remaining parts of the race. Because as long as they finish, they still have a decent chance at a podium, perhaps. Currently running in 4th position. Certainly does seem like Chorik's going to get back out on circuit anymore. The 56 car still stationary in the pits. And so we might well have our 3rd retirement of this race. 1 hour and 45 minutes in.
Yeah, the car doesn't look too bad. Yeah, there's a little bit of damage to the rear wing there, and the right-hand side quarter panel, the front quarter. So hopefully won't be affecting him too badly. We'll see what kind of lap times he can do once he settles into this stint. So it's the Team Mandy Mercedes with Jeff Pogo at the wheel there, and he seems to have settled into the pretty consistent rhythm since he's jumped in the car. Last lap was 149 actually, so sorry, no, the timing screen is just flipping around at 144. 49, so that's only about a tenth actually off that car's best lap, so quite consistent at the moment.
Yeah, saying some decent times. The track temperature, by the way, started off at about 28 degrees, I believe, down to 24 now. Air temperature 20. 7:12 now, 12 minutes past 7 at the time. And like I said earlier on, you can see how the sun is undoubtedly setting. Unfortunately, we're not at Sebring. So at Sebring, because we have Sunset Bend, so we can't know where the sun is. Unfortunately here, I'm not quite sure where the sun is, but I'm sure you can both see on the broadcast somewhere. It's to the right, I imagine, of what Derek Holland currently is at the moment. He just got ahead of a back marker, but is now 8 seconds behind Jeremy Stanley. Only 8 seconds ahead of Aaron Mathieu as well. So all those drivers have a chance of winning this race. Also, you know, enter name here, Timo Schwark was leading the race earlier on, as actually has to give way to a DP car now. That would have been Anthony Locke running in 2nd place for GTSL Red. Apparently he's pitted 3 times as Anthony Locke. I think he may have decided from the pit lane or something. Okay, he's currently 2 minutes and 30 off the lead. That DP class very spread out at the moment. So like I said, the top 3 in the GTE is separated by 16 seconds at the moment.
Yeah, I think that GTSL red car, that was a recent pit stop with a driver change, because Anthony wasn't in the car earlier, so most of the cars now have had a driver change from the start of the race, except for perhaps Derek Holland in the Porsche. I think He's been in the car since the race start. And that's him just in the back of the shot there.
I'm glad no one seems to be. Well, Derek might try this individual, but I'm glad it seems as though no one's going to try this individually. In fact, there is Stephen Brown and Lawrence Shognesi, who we actually saw on the chat earlier on. So he will almost certainly not be taking this single-handedly. And it says, of course, there's other kind of charity events out there or charity streams where people do sim racing for 24 hours. And of course, it's for a great cause, but it's not the best thing for your health. Certainly do not recommend it whatsoever because, yeah, it's not good to be sitting down for 24 hours, let alone be concentrating on a screen for quite that long doing sim racing. Sure, other games not too bad, of course, quite relaxed, but of course, sim racing very intense potentially. But even 6 hours would be a lot. What's kind of the amounts of time that you usually run in an endurance race, Brad? Because you got to get the balance between not running too long that you become fatigued, but at the same time, if you make lots of pit stops, then you run the risk of drivers not being of just constantly having to get themselves back up to pace whenever they get into the car.
Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. Part of it's part of what makes the challenge of endurance racing interesting. From my own experience, I think the longest I've probably done like a quad stint in some of the 24-hour races, just where perhaps other drivers on the team haven't been as confident in the night conditions. So I've done like a whole chunk of driving through the night stint to sort of put the drivers who were less confident, let them do more of their time during the day. But at Le Mans this year, we had 5 drivers in that car, and we shared the driving out quite a bit earlier in the race. Towards the end of the race, myself and another driver sort of did the bulk of the hours, but I had actually not slept. I'd been awake for about 30 hours by the time we got to
Really?
the end of that race, and that definitely, my last stint was definitely not my best. A few errors and things like that started to creep in. I didn't put the car into a wall or anything like that, but was just missing braking points and things like that. So there's definitely a lot to be said for being rested and keeping fresh in those longer races. 6-hour races are a bit easier to prepare for, obviously, but yeah, I don't think I would be able to be as consistent across a 6-hour event if I tried doing it myself. I have done a VLN solo before. That's probably about the limit, I think, particularly at that track because it's so demanding of your focus at the Nordschleife.
Yeah, definitely. I think I did one BLN solo as well. Can't remember how well I did. I think I finished, but I don't think I had a big crash. But wouldn't plan on doing it again. It's not the best
Yeah.
thing when you got I mean the first few BLNs I did, I was very confident in the car around the Nürburgring. My teammates weren't so. Of course, at Nürburgring, if you're not confident, chances are you're going to end up into the wall quite soon. So tried that one solo, but yeah, not the most fun in the world. But still a decent challenge. But like I said, 24 hours is an awful long time. Anything kind of 12 hours or under, it's not too bad. Still, João Barbosa then leading the way, 2.5 minutes clear, of course, after a vast gap was built up early on, and he's still driving very fast. Actually, is Barbosa. They've also got Daniel Dye, who's yet to get into the car. He is signed up for this session, but yet to jump in so far. That all-American team. In fact, vast majority of drivers are American out here today. Just looking to see if there is anyone else out here. Of course, Ole Sankvist is Scandinavian. We've got Vincenzo Rea, who was running earlier on. He is Italian. Stephen Brown, who's yet to get in the car, UKNI. the best club, of course. Runner-up of the World Championship road for like 7 years running or something. Timo Schwark comes from Diace, of course, Germany, Netherlands, that type of area. And then we've also got Greg Dill from Australia, Filippo Filippini, who's unfortunately out of the race, from Italy, Ryan Sharp, who's yet to get in the car for UK and that is it. Everyone else is American or Canadian out there. So a little bit of a mix, and considering that, of course, this is an American organisation, also kind of best time slot for American. That is going to go on for a while for myself, and of course, having to get up very early this morning did Brad for this race. So not fantastic for the Europeans and the Australians, but very good timings for the Americans. Hopefully they're enjoying their Sunday afternoon, taking some laps around this Daytona circuit. Quite close between Jeff Pogo at the moment and Lawrence Shognesi. Shognesi, I think, only just getting into the car. Still Jeremy Stanley leading the way in that GTE class after all the top three made a pit stop just now. Shognesi now 40 seconds behind Stanley, so maybe a little bit of a difference in terms of pit stop times there. Shognesi was in fact 26 seconds longer in the pit stop, which is almost the exact time you need to take some tyres. Coincidence? I think not. I imagine he's got fresh tyres on whilst Stanley doesn't, so might have a good opportunity at catching him up later on. Got Ryan Sharp, who also took tyres. He's just behind Shognesi as well. But you can see Jeff Pogo, who's yet to make his second pit stop in this race in the GT3, leader of the GT3s, and he's currently holding up Lawrence a little bit right now.
Yeah, can't be too far away from making that second stop for... actually, live timing showing that they have made that second stop. So I'm not sure, we might have missed that one. But I definitely took tyres at that stop because it was a 48-second stationary stop, that one. I just noticed we've got Drew Becker in the interview waiting area. If you want to perhaps have a word with him, Sam?
Yes, we will have a chat with Drew Becker, of course, driver for RLB. Oh, sorry, not RLB. Drew Becker, of course, drove for Team Mandy. Sorry.
Yeah, enter name here. So I'm with
enter name
Timo and Greg.
Apologies. Of course, you were leading the way for much of the early stages. Terrific first stint.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I've kind of found some groove and was just trying to burn off fuel and get faster and faster.
Yeah, and kind of got into the lead straight away. How's your qualifying? I think you took pole position by a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I did a 142. I think it was a high 142. The next car, I think it was a 143, something lower 143. So it wasn't too much of a difference, but was enough to kind of get at least out in front and kind of get some tow from the Daytona prototype cars.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, race hasn't gone quite as strongly since then. Greg struggled a little bit with pace and had a couple of offs. What's the damage at the moment to the car? You see a little bit of visible damage. Is it affecting the pace too much?
I think it is a little bit. It's not doing too much. I know Timo is capable of doing 144s. I was looking at his first couple laps. He was doing 145s, 146s. So I think you can definitely bring it down. It's just a matter of getting into the right groove. And obviously, as we go lower and lower on fuel, we'll get a little bit faster, especially as the track gets colder.
Yeah, definitely. Have you taken into consideration when it comes to the setup? How is the setup kind of geared towards? Is it towards those kind of 30-degree track temperatures as we saw earlier on, or more of the 18 degrees that we're going to see later on?
It's actually, yeah, it's a lot more geared towards the colder track temps. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yes, it should certainly be very prepared. Are you? Have you got much experience kind of in this car for endurance races, and have you taken part in the Daytona 24 hours before?
I've not done the Daytona for 24 hours. I actually race the Porsche for the majority of my races. I do a lot of iRacing Le Mans series and ILMS and all that stuff. And I pretty much exclusively race the Porsche, but I figured I'd go with the Ferrari, give it a try, considering it seemed to be the faster car on the track.
And how have you found the Ferrari? Do you think you're maybe up for a little bit of a change going into season one?
Possibly. I don't know yet. I kind of I just these guys, both Timo and Greg, were looking for guys to kind of race with. They came into our Discord and we're looking for someone, so I offered to race. So we'll see. I might do a little bit more with them.
And kind of what's do you have a team that you usually run in? And of course, you've always said that you usually run in the ILMS, but kind of whereabouts can we see you in endurance races?
Yeah, so we're actually a clan that came from Squad originally, and a couple of us kind of found out that we like iRacing, so we're called Imperium Racing. But yeah, we pretty much we kind of sit around the middle stints. We're not super fast, but we're getting up there. But yeah, we'll definitely be around in the iRacing endurance races pretty frequently. We're trying to make most of the events now.
Absolutely, and just a word as well, of course, for kind of the main reason why we're here, of course, epilepsy awareness. Have you taken part in any of these mental health awareness events before? And was it did the epilepsy awareness kind of draw you to this event?
Yeah, I actually haven't done one before. Greg came to me with the opportunity and kind of pointed it out, and I thought it was interesting, so I said, "Why not?" I like it. I think it's good practice for me. I'm definitely going to try and get more people in here, and two, it's for a really good cause. So I'm really glad we're able to do this.
Absolutely. And when can we expect to see you back in the car?
I think after Timo's done here, he's gonna try and knock out a full stint, and then I'm thinking I'm gonna be doing a double stint, maybe three, just to see if we can catch up and make up some ground.
Yeah, because you're currently about 2 laps down, but of course you were about a lap ahead early, or maybe not a lap ahead, but you pulled about a minute, I believe, earlier on. So
Yeah, it was about a
certainly
half a lap.
yeah, the win certainly possible still. Of course, it's a long way through, we're only a third the way through.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a long race. Right now we're kind of banking on the other guys to have some sort of happy accidents, not just us. So it's bound to happen at least one more.
We certainly wish you the best of luck. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
One, I want to thank Greg and Timo for kind of putting in the time to kind of do this with me, and then just kind of thanks to everybody for really bringing out the support for epilepsy.
Well, certainly, if you will fancy having a chat with us later on, Drew, you're more than welcome to, and certainly, push your teammates as well to have a chat with us, certainly. But thanks for having a talk with us, and best of luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
So that was Drew Becker for enter name here. I was going to name the right team eventually. I mean, if I went through each one of them, I would have eventually got the correct one there. So, number 15 car, of course, on the comeback trail after a couple of issues earlier on in the race. Side by side, currently for second and third out of the GTE cars. We've seen plenty of moves already. Ryan Sharp and just getting past then Lawrence Shognessi. So, Ice Dragons Racing IDR Red, getting past Indy Motorsports Petite Road. So very promising at the moment for Ryan Sharp. He seems to have good pace in this car. I think he's quite recently got in the car, has Sharp. And so he's done 35 laps already, compared to Lance, who's only done the 5 laps so far, and got in at the very last pit stop. So just struggling in terms of pace a little bit right now. They are currently 40 seconds behind the leaders of this class, Jeremy Stanley, but of course did take tyres at their last pit stop, so we'll come back into the fray later on. We will probably have another interview in about 15 minutes time. We're trying to spread them out a little bit, so but of course if you fancy having a chat with us in the commentary box, even if you're maybe a viewer, I mean, it'd be good to get your perspective on what's occurring out on circuit at the moment. And of course, if you're a driver, certainly do let us know. If you'd like a chat, of course, just pop into our Discord and then sit in the interview waiting area, and we will drag you in sometime. So Sharp, yeah, sorry.
So yeah, just obviously watching Sharp in the Ferrari here is being able to make that move for P2 just a few moments ago. This GTE field has been able to provide some pretty close racing, given that we've been on track for just over 2 hours now. And looks like the pace of the cars is fluctuating a little bit with the driver changes, but not dramatically for the most part. The enter name here guys that we were speaking to probably had a little bit more of a difference with their drivers, but regardless, it's great to see everyone getting out here and giving it a go. It's always good to get more experience, and as some of the drivers have explained, they're sort of quite early in their endurance careers, even first races for some of them, so it's good to see. Joe Barbosa still out in front here, sliding the car through the hairpin, and looking quite comfortable though. Haven't seen him put a wheel sort of too far wrong since he jumped in the car. I'm not sure if that's just me, but could be a slight little bit of damage to this splitter on the front left there. Is no, it's just the camera angle.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a little bit as well, just on the
Oh
nose
no,
there,
yeah, it
but
looks like there might be.
shouldn't affect his straight line speed too bad. He's had good pace, has Barbosa. He's little bit. In fact, actually on that last lap, he set identical lap time to Anthony Locke. So the top two in the DP class very evenly matched at the moment. But Locke is about a lap and a half adrift at this stage of the race. So he really does need to try to chase down the car number 5 at some point during the event. But of course, his teammates might help him out with that one. Of course, Locke didn't take the start. It was Corker who took the start, and also Dulmich who got in second. And Locke has been very strong. If anything, appears to maybe be the strongest out of the three of them, but all evenly matched drivers. The New Yorkian, I don't know what you call someone from New York, but then also the two Canadian as well. But yeah, what do you call a New Yorker? I assume.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably that would be what that would be my default. Perhaps someone in the chat might know. They might
I
be
know
able to let us
people from Alabama are called Alabamians, but had to look that up for another broadcast.
We've got Ola here in P3 in class and overall, and just trying to see what the interval is there. I can't quite see it on my timing there at the moment, but it's not too far. Yeah, it's about a lap.
Yeah, a lap behind Locke at the moment. About 3 seconds on that last lap was Cyclist, who's was taking this car from the base star. William Kruska is his teammate, who is the main organizer of this. And I think jumped into our Discord earlier on. Fortunately, I haven't had a chance to have a chat with him. Of course, William, if you're listening, then maybe have a chat with us. I don't think we're going to be able to have a chat for the next kind of half an hour or so, but certainly do have a chat with us at some point in the race, because it'd be great to chat with kind of the guy who brought all this event together, of course, and of course Ola Sarkovits as well, having quite an interesting race so far, running as high as second place in the very early stages. Unfortunately, picking up a bit of damage, and you can see the damage on that car at the moment. Of course, like I said earlier on, the drivers do get one fast repair during this race, but if you use it, it's gone, and often you can waste it on some quite minor damage. And depending on kind of how optimistic your mindset is, you can either think, oh well, I won't make a mistake for the rest of the race, I can use the fast repair right now, or you can be a bit of a yeah, a little bit less optimistic and think, oh, I'll probably crash, so I'll just keep it there spare. But different decisions that these drivers take, and sometimes you accidentally take it as well. So, and that can be quite costly. But quite a few of these drivers, I imagine, still leaving it to spare. Jeremy Stanley for H&H Racing, I think, yet to really pick up any significant damage, so no need for him to use his fast repair so far.
Yeah, just talking about that, the guys in the utterly ridiculous racing car, they're still showing in the lane, because we saw them pick up quite hefty damage earlier. That's 28 minutes they've been in the lane there for now. So it would appear that they're attempting to get that car repaired and perhaps rejoin the race. It's always good to see our team do that, despite having troubles. If they do choose to come back out, it's kind of the endurance spirit of not giving up. So we might see them rejoin.
Yeah, Blake Trorick still in the session, so seemingly waiting for that damage to be fixed. Unfortunately, none of his teammates in the session at the moment, so I don't know if he's trying to go this completely alone. But hopefully we'll get some company later on. Must say, if he could win the race from here, that would be absolutely legendary. Just had to pop that one in. Safe to say there'll be a few more of them to come. So keep your ears out because we've got 4 hours to go yet. So lots of cow puns can be made.
So we've got Lawrence in the Indy Autosport Petite Road Porsche here, and his last lap was a 45.6. So not the fastest lap for that car has been a 43.5. So not quite on the pace, but you can see it does look like a little damage on the left-hand side of the car. But still, 45's still reasonably consistent. Having said that, though, the previous lap that he's just finished was a 47.6, so just might be struggling to find a bit of consistency. Also, the balance of the car will be changing with these track temps. The track temp coming down now. The sun's definitely ducked down behind the oval banking, and the headlights will be starting to take effect quite soon in this race. And then we might see sort of the ebbs and flow of the pace of the cars change a little bit too. Some drivers might be a bit more confident in the darker conditions than others. And Timo Schwack from Antonym here has just had a little bit of a moment there again. Perhaps that car's not quite handling as nicely as it did earlier in the race with that little bit of damage. Just losing the rear as he came around to exit the infield.
Yeah, onto those bumps seemingly not helping the car too much, and just seemed to carry a little bit too much speed into the corner. So struggling at the moment a little bit is Schwark, but as his teammate was giving him some decent words earlier on about his potential pace out on circuit. Of course, just commenting on a comment you made just previously about of course the drivers being a little bit more confident during the night around some of these circuits, of course. Or around this circuit. Of course, this place, it's incredibly well lit, which we drive a lot of laps around here, but not all circuits are. Pretty much all the other circuits which have night lights, and even the likes of Spa, which you kind of think has a classic night circuit, or even Motegi as well, do kind of have quite dark spots in parts. Nürburgring, of course, pretty tricky as well when it comes to that. Hopefully, of course, we're getting back onto the topic of Season 1 build, and I realise that all the things we've mentioned so far, P2, need damage model, need tyre model, all this stuff, probably won't be implemented, but another element that we would love to see would be more like night lighting for circuits, because there's quite a few endurance tracks. Road Atlanta, for example, for Petit was run without the night lighting. I don't believe... sorry, Sebring does have it. Apologies. So Sebring is actually... yeah, say that. I think Sebring's okay when it comes to night lighting. But there are a few circuits that certainly does need to be implemented on, hopefully, in the coming
Yeah.
builds.
The headlights, the headlight model was changed just after Le Mans this year, ironically. So it has improved. I know there were some people complaining that it was changed literally a couple of days after Le Mans, not beforehand, but I didn't find that Le Mans was too bad for the night. But Nürburgring was definitely a challenge. The headlights didn't do much there, and over the crest, it's just kind of you head over the crest and it's just darkness because the headlights don't shine down into all the undulation, the dips there. So perhaps next year having a slightly better headlight model may make that a little easier. But yeah, I quite like running at night. It's been good. And if you are confident in the track, it's a pretty enjoyable time to be on the circuit because usually lower track temps mean better tyre wear and better grip levels. And it's kind of like the happy hour for lap times.
It's not brilliant for us broadcasters. I mean, personally, I'm a big fan of the lights on broadcast. It just doesn't look great at night. I must say I do have a bit of a pet hate of Motegi at night. I mean, it's no better at night than it is at day, and yet people just insist on it being at the nights. As Barbosa comes into the pits for his first pit stop, of course, the team's many pit stop. By the way, we have a little bit of a thing on SDK Gaming. Of course, I gave a little bit of a plug to them later on. They're really good. Check out their website. But we can predict how much iRating each driver will gain. So we use the same algorithm as iRacing. And so you can see before the race is finished how much iRating a driver will gain. Apparently, if João Barbosa, if this was an official race, not a team race, and it was actually an official one, you would gain 132 iRating, which really implies that he is doing much better than his iRating would suggest. So, I say underdog, they're being incredibly impressive so far, so they do seem to be the class of the field. But no, Zhao, maybe a driver a little bit new to iRacing, he's improving quite a bit.
Yeah, perhaps just while that race leader has to come down the lane, we might get Eric Murillo into the booth to have a word with him. He's just waiting in the interview area.
I will. There you go. Should have him now.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, hi Eric. How are you, mate?
What's up, Brad?
So, just saw your car come down the lane for service there.
Yep.
Looks like everything's going quite well, and heading into towards the night, the darker part of the race. Yeah, how's your race going from your point of view, and you looking forward to heading into the darker conditions?
I am looking forward to this. The race so far has been going really well. Joao has been running great lap times. So I've never done this before. Okay, his name's actually Rodrigo, by the way, not Joao. Joao's his father, who's a professional race car driver. Just put that out there. But no, it's going great so far. I started out, I gave us like a lap and a half lead. Now Rodrigo's in the car. He's doing amazing. He's about to put the field down by 2 laps. Can be going better right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, I haven't mentioned that. Yeah, I do recognize the name Joao Barbosa. So
Yeah,
it's good to have that connection involved with the event.
it is.
And have you personally done a lot of endurance racing before, or was this sort of an event that drew you into it? Or
I have done one other endurance race, and it was the 24 Hours of Daytona in January this year, and we won by a few laps with my team. It wasn't this team; it was a different team, but we yeah, won that. It was fun.
yeah, and you kind of perhaps using this as a bit of a primer to do that race again early next year.
Exactly. Yes. Kind of using this as a practice, see where we are as a team.
Yep. And did you run the prototype in the race this year?
Yes, we did.
Yep.
Planning to do it again.
Yeah, it's a fun car. I like driving it myself. And obviously, this particular event, the Sim Races for Mental Health, is for the Epilepsy Foundation, trying to raise money for that. Is that sort of something that sort of appealed to you to get involved, or?
Yeah, that's the fact that it's for a charity like that is one of the main reasons to do it. It's just a great thing. I love like the leader of this. I just love what he's doing. He's trying to raise money for for a great cause like that. It's good.
Yeah, obviously, if anyone's just joined the broadcast and wasn't aware, there is a link down in the description where people can contribute to that cause and make a donation. I believe they have a goal around $2,500. I think they were trying to raise. So hopefully, they're heading somewhere towards that.
That would be great.
Just watching your car during the race, I've noticed it looks like it's set up quite soft in the rear, sort of lifting the inside front wheel through turn 1 and a couple other places. Is that something you did just to try and conserve sort of tires with the traction zones out of the slow corners, or?
Not really. It's kind of we're kind of just making it, and we're editing it. We're just trying to get whatever. It's just not really paying attention to tire or anything like that.
Yeah, just trying to keep it predictable.
Correct.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us in the booth. And is there anyone in particular you want to thank?
Sure. I'd like to thank Daniel Dye for being on our team. Same thing with Rodrigo Barbosa. Yes, that's about it. I also like to thank the leader of this event for doing this for such a good cause. Which, it's a great thing he's doing.
Yep. No worries. We'll let you go and sort of get prepared for your next stint and watch Rodrigo out there doing his thing at the moment. And we wish you the best for the rest of the race.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
So that was Eric Murillo, who started the race in the RLB racing car, which is currently leading. Put in a rather strong stint at the start of the event. And they continue to lead.
Yeah, looking strong for those guys at the moment. Of course, yeah, there's a 3 minute. It was nearly 3 minutes the last time I looked. Yeah, it is pretty much nearly 3 minutes. They're still just edging up that gap. João Barbosa, or apologies, what was this? Rodrigo Barbosa, driving very well at the moment. 2 seconds of that faster than Anthony Locke in second place. So William Kruzka, the league organizer, or the event organizer at least, pops into the car. So you do not want to mess with him, otherwise you will get an instant disqualification, I'm sure, because he has the power to do that. He's out on circuit, still 3rd place out of the the DPs. Only 3 DPs currently running. Drake, of course, we had Vincenzo Reya and Filippini earlier on retiring from the race. Also Blake Troy unfortunately retired after a crash at turn 1. We thought might get back out onto circuit. I believe he's still in the session, but yet to emerge from the pit lane after sustaining quite a bit of damage. So hopefully we see another DP out on circuit again. These top 3 running very strongly, albeit are separated by about 5 minutes. The 3 of them at this 2 hour 20 mark. Launch Shognesi, 23 seconds behind Ryan Sharp. That's the battle for second and third. Shognesi, of course, was ahead of Sharp earlier on in this stint, but certainly does seem as though Sharp has got the edges. Jeff Pogo from the lead of the GT3 cars, seemingly coming into the pits. Of course, him and Jeffrey McConey from McConey Motorsports, the only 2 GT3 cars out there. They are quite evenly matched though, so expect to have a tight battle near the end of the race between those 2 cars. And of course, Jeremy Stanley leading the way in the GTE cars. And actually, just looking at the gap, Stanley to Sharp. I don't know if you remember, Brad, but of course, Sharp took tyres. Meanwhile, Stanley didn't on that last stint. And it now means that there's a 33-second gap between them. It was about 45 seconds earlier on. So it seems as though Sharp is faster, but he's not a whole lot faster. Despite considering that he's got new tyres in comparison to old tyres for Stanley.
Yeah, I mean, with the track temp not being so high now, sort of double single tyres is probably going to be may become the norm. We'll see, but the tyre change in these cars taking around 26, 28 seconds thereabouts. Over a stint, you have to be significantly faster on the new tyres for to gain that back. But obviously, if you're not comfortable in the car on old tyres, and you're more prone to making mistakes, then you can lose that 20 odd seconds very easily as well with repairs. So yeah, I guess that's one of the aspects that you always have to manage with the endurance racing. But generally, when the temperatures come down, you're more likely to be able to double stint tyres. But we'll see how that plays out with the guys over the remainder of the race. Ryan looks like he's been doing quite a reasonable job since he jumped in the car. And he's Jeremy Stanley in the HH Racing BMW. He's the class leader. It's the car that Ryan's trying to chase down in the Ferrari. And it's about 30, as you said, about 32 seconds between them at the moment. So that gap has been coming down, but probably not as quickly as Ice Dragons Racing would have liked.
Yes.
But yeah, plenty of time to go.
Yeah, 3.5 hours, or over 3.5 hours remaining. And I mean, I've said this a few times, but it's getting darker. I'm sure you've noticed on the stream. And actually, there's very little sunlight anymore out on the circuit. As I say that, we ride on board, and there's a decent amount of sunlight still on the circuit. But I imagine that will quite quickly disappear. In Sim, I'm not sure if we got like a graphic for the in-Sim time. If we do, I'm sure Sam is showing it to you right now. But it says currently 7:53 in the evening. And and it's the 15th of May. Personally, I'm not someone who knows the sunset times for Florida off by heart for every day of the year, but I imagine it will get dark quite soon, and it will certainly be dark by the end of this race, which is, I must say, that they've kind of set the timings about perfect, to be honest. It will start off in pretty much completely sunny conditions and will end in complete pitch blackness, of course. The lights around this circuit, I was going to say, turn on. Hopefully that's not a glitch. The lights will illuminate this track extremely well, and of course you can probably see the pack stands out there on the start pitch. It does feel a bit weird, I must say, Brad, to see the pack stands for Daytona for an event like this. Of course, I appreciate the Daytona 24 hours, very popular, but it's pretty cool to see that many people seemingly turn up for this event, and of course the crowd effect I realise we're going back to updates, as I seem to do every 5 minutes, but the crowd effects have been improved a little bit since the last build. I think they're kind of 3D people now, even, and slightly better on our GPUs and CPUs as well. So, hey, good to see that up there.
Yeah, might have put the commentator's curse on Ryan, unfortunately, after mentioning his consistency and how he was going in the car there. Looks like he's had another car to have a moment at that final corner heading out of the infield. Almost a carbon copy of what we saw a little earlier from one of the other cars.
Is this a circuit that you particularly enjoy? Because that corner has just reminded me. I'm not a massive fan of this place, and that corner in particular. I mean, it's very tricky, and it's a little bit of a fiddly corner there, where there's not an ideal racing line necessarily. You don't use all the circuit on the outside, of course. But is this a circuit that you enjoy to race at?
I don't mind it. It has been a while since I've run the road configuration. To be honest, I did run a few races here early on when I first joined the service in the production car challenge. That ran here quite frequently. That was the first sort of multi-class category available to me when I joined iRacing. So, being a multi-class fan, that was one of the events I would sign up for pretty frequently. I have run a NASCAR truck race here quite recently, but that was on the older version, the 2007 version with all the bumps. That's a bit of a white knuckle ride.
Was that on
but
the
yeah,
oval or the oval?
On the oval, yeah.
Yes.
But I don't mind this road layout, but I think it is best suited for multi-class, like what we're seeing here, because it's where the rovals, I think, become a little more interesting with the speed differences around the banking, and they do give a nice like flow of traffic for multi-class. I mean, we have seen a couple cars trip over each other here, but compared to a lot of other road circuits, it's generally a bit easier for the faster classes to get through. They can be a bit more patient on the infield if they need to be, knowing that they've got the banking as an easier opportunity to get past those slower cars. So I think that's one of the strengths with the roval formats. I know some people aren't really a fan of the roval layouts, regardless of the track, whether it be Atlanta or Daytona or Vegas, etc. But it's I don't mind them. I think they do lend themselves to multi-class quite well.
Yeah, they can be pretty good, can these ovals. Of course, Charlotte Roads, one of the newest circuits on iRacing, has an elevation change. According to Marco Babinett, again, I seem to get all my knowledge from Marco, but apparently he said that they didn't plan on having it kind of elevation change around that circuit. It's just that apparently the ground is they kind of found the rock underneath the surface was so difficult to kind of get out that in the end they kind of just had to make the track around that, and that was kind of soon after they brought the land, and so you have some elevation change, which is quite unique. But I think it's a decent circuit there. Of course, we've got Indianapolis, Kansas, not a brilliant circuit. I believe Kansas is literally you go onto go off the oval, have a hairpin, and then you go back onto the oval. So drivers aren't a big fan. That Homestead, Miami, that's not a bad circuit, and also that's used quite a bit in the official IMSA series. I've seen that probably about once a year. Of course, 4 seasons a year. So once a year usually does the official series use that. So that's not too bad. But probably the most popular, the most famous roval in the world. I don't know if Motegi counts as a roval. Probably not, seeing that it doesn't incorporate the over at all, because it is a road circuit on the sides / kind of overlapping. and an oval. But yeah, this place certainly the main place for that.
The New Hampshire layout is quite unique, and
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
you
Oh,
kind
is that the one where it goes outside of the oval?
yeah, you drive outside of the oval and then come
Mind
back in.
blowing.
So, yeah, it's quite interesting, and it does get used on some roads series, official series. I've seen it pop up on the schedule for the Skip Barber and a couple other cars. Oh, Williams just had a bit of a moment there on the exit coming onto the banking. Again, we see the prototype cars lifting the front wheels as they come off that corner. Their car does have a little bit of rear damage though, so that could be exaggerating it on theirs.
I can't tell if it's crabbing or it just looks really bad, that car. I think it just looks very poor. Oh, wow. I don't think William is going to be able to go much further, to be honest, in this race before he's crashing, because that's now pretty much 2 corners in a row where he's almost smashed the car. I mean, to be fair, the first time there wasn't a barrier particularly nearby, but that second time, the bus stop is one of the most unforgiving corners on the entire circuit. But hopefully Kuzka gets his rhythm back. He has done about 7 laps so far out here, so he should be decently warmed up. And actually, earlier on in the stint, he did a 39. He did a lot of 39s. In fact, he did 4 laps within a tenth of a second of one another, which is extremely competitive. And they were his team's fastest laps of the race. But then he's just done a 44 and another 44. So strange that he's lost quite so much time. On this lap, it looks a little bit better for him, but clearly just some mistakes, as we saw a few slides for him. And maybe trying to sprint his way to the finish will be tricky to do, though, with still 3.5 hours to go in this. I think we will probably... What time is it? 17 minutes past. Yes, in fact, I said 10 minutes ago to Daniel Dye that we will have a chat with him. And so we'll drag him up for an interview. Yes, Daniel, thank you for joining us in the commentary box. Yeah, how is your race going at the moment? Of course, I don't believe you've jumped into the car yet, but your team doing pretty well right now, safe to say. Just struggling to hear Daniel at the moment, so he might just need to change his settings.
I was not aware that I was in the interview. I just sat back down.
Aha, sorry, we dragged Daniel up just at the worst moment. But Daniel, you hear us fine now.
Yeah, I got you. How's it going?
Awesome, it's going very well, thank you. And it's going great for yourself. I was just saying, you're yet to get in the car, but your teammates have done a pretty good job so far.
Eric started out really, really good. Started the race off and got to a pretty big lead at the beginning there, and just kind of maintained that speed. And we haven't really been falling off as much, which is pretty good considering how much we've practiced getting ready for this. So I'm really proud of Eric and Rodrigo for doing so well. And I'm kind of new to this whole road course deal. I race asphalt late models in real life, so I'm new to this whole road course deal. So they got me caught up and ready. Got us a good setup, and Rodrigo's dad, who's done some road course stuff himself in real life, helped us with the setup a little bit. So just good group of guys putting this thing together is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that you're from Florida. Have you ever had the opportunity to go over to Daytona?
Yeah, so I live about 20 minutes away from the track, and
Oh,
me and
wow.
Eric actually go to school about 10 minutes away from the track. So any race that's there, I'm usually there. We go to the Rolex every year as well as all the NASCAR events. So now that I'm involved in this and this road course stuff on iRacing, I think I'm gonna appreciate it that much more. And looking forward to hopefully running the Rolex on iRacing here, as well as going to watch it this year as well.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned some real life motorsport you do. Kind of what series do you do, and yeah, what kind of tracks have you raced at? Is it kind of just local to Florida, or?
You broke up a little bit there. I'm not sure. I don't need to talk over you, but it's the NASCAR Whelen All American Tour. So basically full body stock cars. They're not as heavy as what you see on TV and on Sundays, like pickup cars that are running today. But it's the same aspect. We run short tracks, so half mile racetracks, ovals, pretty much all around the southeast is what I do. Bristol, uh, places that are on iRacing that I've ran in real life is New Smyrna Speedway as well as Five Flag Speedway. We also travel to Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, all over the place doing this. It's a pretty big deal over here in the southeast, so I'm really proud to be a part of that and involved with a really great group of guys. Ben Kennedy Racing is who I race for, and they've taught me a lot about what I'm doing. So I'm glad to be a part of them.
Absolutely. Well, it's fantastic that you're taking part in real life. And kind of what series do you take part in on iRacing then?
iRacing, I just kind of mess around and dip my toes in everything. I've started to take interest into the rallycross stuff, which is really cool. Obviously, I do a lot of oval stuff, since that's what I do in real life. I just try to kind of study up on every different track that I can. That's what I'm interested in mainly, so I try to do that. And I kind of just dip my toes in everything. I like the dirt. I like the rallycross. Obviously, I'm doing this 6 hour race, so I gotta like road course racing to some extent. So I've been doing a little bit of the pilot series recently. I really enjoyed that. Those cars are a handful for sure. So just basically anything that's on iRacing, I'm pretty interested in.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at the sun setting, getting darker and darker at the moment out there. When will you be getting in the car, and have you been practicing in the dark conditions?
Yeah, so I'm actually rejoining the session right now. I left the race session to do a little bit of practice on my own. I'm going to be getting in the car here in just a little bit, so I'm just getting myself resituated. Looking forward to it. I'm probably not going to be as good as Eric and Rodrigo. They've been real good, but just hoping to hopefully maintain the lead that we have and maybe grow on it a little bit, and hopefully let Eric finish things up and park that car in victory lane.
Definitely, and also just a word about kind of the main reason why we're racing today. About of course, sim race for mental health. This race organised by this is for epilepsy awareness. Was that something that kind of intrigued you and kind of brought you to this event, encouraged you to race in this?
Yeah, so I've actually raced against William. We've raced together a couple times, and seeing that he's involved in the mental health stuff, especially on iRacing. One of my sponsors in real life is actually a mental health awareness campaign. It's called Halifax Health Race to Stop Suicide. So really, anything involved with mental health, I like being involved with. So this being a long race and something I wanted to try as well as it being mental health awareness was really cool. So that definitely impacted my decision on running this race.
And of course, there's other races, monthly races organised by sim races for mental health. So, and they're mainly on the oval. So, do you reckon you might investigate those as well?
I probably will. I wasn't really aware of that until you just brought it up. So I'll definitely send William a message and see what I can do.
Awesome. Well, it's been great to chat to you, Daniel, and we wish you best of luck later on. But is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we say goodbye?
Yeah, so I got to shout out obviously Eric and Rodrigo for doing so good and helping me out, get me situated in this whole road course deal. I got to thank Metro Electronics and G Beach. They're our sponsors for this race. They're really great people, and they're also sponsors for my real life racing. We try to kind of make our DP car look like my car in real life, as well as my real life sponsors. So it's awesome having them on board, as well as Ben Kennedy Racing, getting me situated, everything in the real life deal. So just a bunch of awesome people let me do this.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Daniel, and hopefully, yeah, I mean, feel free to join us for an interview later on, and best of luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
So that was Daniel Dye, driver for RLB Racing, who are currently doing very well at the moment, leaders of the DP category, and by a couple of laps as well. So looking very strong for that team to take the race victory today. And I mean, we're not too far away from the halfway mark of this race. I always think in these events, particularly 24-hour events, and I realise this isn't nearly that long, but the first couple of hours, particularly in a 24-hour event, Brads, it feels incredibly long. And you think, with 22 hours to go, if that was 2 hours, how on earth are we going to do 22 hours? I mean, and of course, this is a little bit shorter, but often you can get to 3 hours into this race and you think that's taken a lot of effort. We've come close a few times to a big crash, and it can be quite a tough task to get it to the end of the race. Quite a challenging ordeal.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, well, for me anyway, one of the attractions of the iRacing service is that you can, well, we've got Jeffrey Marconi having a moment into the wall and he's towed to the lane, so that'll be a lengthy tow as well because that was early in the lap.
Oof.
Yeah, decent impact too, so it's not good to see that car in the wall. Hopefully it'll be back out. We'll see how long that might take. Yeah, as I was saying, I think that's one of the strengths in the iRacing service is it does offer the opportunity to do a lot of different disciplines of racing and to experience that, and people can try multiple different things and then sort of see what suits them or suits their mindset when they go racing, or it might they can learn things from the other disciplines. So I'm not usually super fast, like on a sort of 1 lap pace, but I'm finding that I'm being able to get quite consistent over a stint, and usually pretty good on fuel as well. I'm a right foot braker, so sometimes I can save a bit more fuel than someone on the left foot braking. So yeah, just it opens up interesting differences between driving styles and things over those longer stints and over longer races, and it's a very different mindset for an endurance event, particularly the 24 hours when you head into those. You need to, if you want to be competitive, you need to be prepared, spend the time practicing, and then when it's a team event like that, you've also got to make that compromise on car setup between different drivers that'll be in the car. So that's the part which I find interesting. Like I kind of enjoy preparing for those events as much as I do actually running them, because that's where a lot of the sort of teamwork and camaraderie come in, on the build up to these events, which we've heard a couple of the drivers mention even tonight just for this 6-hour race. So yeah, iRacing just kind of offers something for everyone. If you're a dirt track fan, you've got that. If you're an oval fan, there's plenty of ovals to run on, and then you've got on the road side of things, and then you've got sprint racing, endurance racing. So yeah, if anyone's out there and hasn't been involved and is looking to do so, yeah, I'd encourage it for sure. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, definitely. And when he hasn't signed up to iRacing, do so. We don't quite have to be so promotional as we are on the iRacing Esports Network when we really do have to push the offers. I think, to be fair, I think for like the first 3 months, it's like 10 quid or something, which is quite cheap, quite a good offer. So if you haven't signed up to iRacing, certainly do. We can't give you any promo codes, unfortunately, but still, it's not that expensive. Like I said, tenner, you can throw that away, I'm sure, and cost
I'm,
cheaper than most games.
yeah, I'm not even sure what any the current promotions are, if there are any or whatever. But obviously, people can just jump on the site and have a look. I mean, Black Friday is around the corner. There could be something happening with that, perhaps.
Of
But
course,
yeah,
yeah.
when I signed up, I kind of knew already that I would be interested for the long haul. So I just did a 24 months straight up and just figured, oh, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it properly. But anyway, we're just watching William Kruska here. We did see when we're chatting to Daniel there, he had a couple of moments again in that car. So he has had pace from time to time, and the last lap was a 41.2, so not terrible, but a little bit off the 39s that we saw earlier. But maybe struggling to get the consistency today. There's a bit of damage to the car there, but has still been able to do some competitive lap times.
It just seems, I don't know about you, because you were saying earlier on that very soft rear end for one of the cars, but almost it seems as though Williams' cars, the rear end is almost detached from the front end. It almost seems like quite a stiff car. I'm not quite sure if that's correct, but the rear end just seems to want to over rotate around a lot of these corners. And like I said earlier on, it almost looks as though it's crabbing a little bit, or maybe that's just the bodywork, but it just doesn't quite seem to look right. And I guess if it did have a stiff rear end and maybe it was overstaying a little bit, that would make sense why he was quick some laps, but maybe making many mistakes as well.
Yeah, it's definitely lifting the inside tyre more so than the other prototypes that we've seen. So whether that's the sort of damage around the rear of the car that's affecting that or the setup, not sure, but it does look like it's a bit of a handful. You can see it's a little bit of steering correction there as he heads on to the banking. It might be worth jumping on board with William just for a moment if we can, just to see how the car behaves through the bus stop here. Steering wheel straight, so steering wise doesn't look like he's got any damage. It actually looks reasonably well behaved through the bus stop, so it must be the slower infield section which is giving him the most trouble. We'll just stick on board and have a look, see how it behaves.
Yeah. So yeah, it certainly does seem to be like the slow speed corners, perhaps where cars not quite as happy as he roars past the tens of thousands of people in the stands. And of course taking that tight line, of course a very unique turn one, that where of course the second or the outside half of the circuit is a slope down, and it really does affect your grip quite a bit. Kushka managed to get through that turn one decently, and turn two taking that tight line as we saw the race leaders take earlier on. Certainly does seem to be the best line for this DP car, just to kind of really hook the car around the that inside curve. Got so many different lines, so you can take a slightly wider line potentially for that, but Kushka just keeping the car in the middle of the circuit. And once again, you don't need to use all the circuit on the exit for this left-hander. In fact, very tight for Kushka that time, only using probably about a third of the circuit, and then going quite high up on the oval parts. Of course, the organizer of this event and driver for sim races for Mental Health Motorsports, and we've said it a few times, but of course, check out the link in the chat and in the description as well to donate any money to the epilepsy awareness, raising a bit of money for that. And we've got a goal of 2.5 or 2K, I believe it is, $2,000. Currently sitting at about $200, I believe, which is still terrific amounts of money. I'm sure that will go very far. So we'd certainly appreciate it if you could give absolutely anything for Billy Kushka's cause. As I think we might just have a chat with we just missed it. Oh dear, I was just about to say we could have a chat with one of the drivers out there, but unfortunately one of the McConies, I believe it was, he was just sitting in the interview waiting at it. Oh, here we go. Jeff McConey's back. Okay, we will check him in before he disappears again. Fred, would you like to take this interview?
Yeah, well, just saw William have another moment there. Field. There's a couple of cars got close together there.
Hello.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been better.
Yeah, there's a few adventures out on track with your car, and obviously there's quite a few other cars having issues, but yeah, your car currently in the lane.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through what happened there?
So when I first went out there, first got in the car, our tires were at about 75%, the right front, which was the most worn. So a decent chunk of it was gone. So I went out there. It took me about a lap to get used to the car. Much bigger braking zones than I thought it was going to be. So once I got into the groove, got my brake bias set, it was just sort of cruising from there. I ran about 20 laps or so. in fuel saving mode and then just turned it all the way up to get the most out of the car. Made my pit stop, took 4 tires. That was about a minute long stop. And then from there, the car was just on rails. I mean, I'm pretty sure I put down like a 144.6 and I was just flying. When in practice, we put down like a 145.2, 146 even. So just flying along. And then going into turn 1 there, that's the hardest turn on the track by far. And I went a little bit wide. I was off track. I was like, oh, no big deal. I'll just, I'll take it back on slowly. I gotta, not take the turn that hard. And then there's actually a hill there that I didn't see. So I hit the hill. The front end is in the air. You can't turn the car, and I was just along for the ride. So nosed it into the wall, held my brakes, let everyone else get by. Started driving again, and it just pulled right to the left and put itself back in the wall, and that was it from there.
Yeah, it can be deceivingly difficult, this track. I mean, we've just seen Steve Rudder in the HH Racing BMW have a moment on the infield there. It's like a lot of people look at this track on paper and just think, oh, there's not that much to it. It's just an oval with a short little infield section. But
right.
That infield section is quite technical, and the transition from and back onto the banking, it's the bumps there, and just the fact that you're coming down from the slope surface onto the infield section. It's just getting those transitions right at the start, particularly at the start of the lap there. It's can be quite tricky.
Yeah, and especially with these cars, when you are braking and turning the wheel at the same time, the car wants to spin around, and it gets worse the more worn your tires are. So if you don't have your brake bias set properly, that car will go right around, and that's all turn 1 is. You are on the brakes and turning the wheel, so you've got to time your downshifts correctly in order not to spin out. So it's a technical racetrack, but it's a lot of fun to drive at. So I think that's why we got such a great race going on here. It's so much fun. So many people want to race it, but it happens. Live and learn, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's as some of the drivers have said, it's definitely good practice heading towards special event season next year with the Rolex 24. Oh, and Steve's just had another moment while we're riding on board there. So yeah, you can see it's maybe the changing track temperatures catching a few people out. They haven't quite adjusted their bias or the balance of the car changing. But yeah, it's a lot of people are going to use this as a bit of practice for this 24, which is good. Might encourage more people to get involved with that event early next year.
Absolutely, and it's nice that we're just sort of out here racing for charity and not, for rankings or anything else. So everyone's been, talking to each other. Everyone's just out here having a good time. Nobody's really, as far as I've seen, been upset with anybody else. So it's just a good event going on to raise money for charity.
Yeah, well, there's still been some quite close racing. I mean, even some of the gaps at the moment aren't too far. I mean, Steve that we're on board with, I think it's only 7 seconds or so.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of close racing, but thankfully everyone's being very nice to each other, which is always good to see in a race. Nobody's letting the pressure get to them.
And what can we expect? Is the car, is it looking repairable to get back out there again?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to have to be an engine swap and make some fixes to the left front of the car, but it's got 54 more minutes required repairs at that point, so that would be, about 6:30 or so, a little after 6:30, that we'll be back out on track Eastern time, and that'll be Greg in the car. He'll probably run it 6:30 to 7:45, and I'll take over and finish it, or if he wants to run it out to the end, I guess I owe it to him after wrecking the car, so I don't know. But
we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the spirit of this event. Just being here to try and raise some money for the cause, and in endurance racing in general, I always find it's good sportsmanship for people to stick it out, even get the car fixed, get it back out there, see what they can do, and just generally get some more experience and more practice. So it'd be good to see if you guys can get the car back out there.
Absolutely. That car is not done for today yet. It'll be back out there and turn laps until it can't turn anymore. So that's the plan.
No problem. So we look forward to seeing you back out there, and hopefully the closing stages of the race can be a little bit less eventful, perhaps, for it.
I hope so. But yeah, great job with the broadcast, guys. I'll be following along. You guys have been doing a great job, so thank you so much for it.
Not a problem.
Have a good one.
Oh, William just had another moment there, so he's not really enjoying that car at the moment. So yeah, but yeah, that was Jeff McConey from McConey Motorsports. The car's unfortunately in the lane at the moment for lengthy repairs. And William, the event organizer, has had an eventful stint, we shall say.
Yes.
But he's still out there. He's still giving it his all, which is good.
Of course, we are. Oh, as Steve Rudder, he's what's out of it. He does not like that corner, does he, Steve Rudder? I mean, just skip it. To be honest, there is a slightly alternative route you can take there. I think that might be his best shot. He was leading this race as well, right at the top of this stint. Lost it very early on though. Apologies that we haven't been following the GT action too much. I think whenever we have an interview, and we have had a few interviews, and thank you to the drivers. We have had an interview with us. We when we said we have an interview, maybe we thought maybe 2 or 3 across the entire race, but it's fantastic. So many of you have been willing to chat to us and kind of give you reasons for taking part in this broadcast and just taking us through all your narratives, because we can't possibly do all the narratives of this race justice. So it's great to kind of get your insights for what has been happening to you guys. But yes, so that we haven't really seen a couple of the GTE race changes. But Aaron Methia is the leader in that class. Ice Dragons iRacing IDR Red. I believe as well every single GTE team has led. Apologies, has led the race at some point today. So now it's Aaron Mathieu leading the way. Lawrence Shognessi for Indy Autosport Petite Road in second place. Then it's Steve Rada in third, who was leading at the start of this stint just half an hour ago. And then Jude Becker, of course, after the issues that they've had in that car. Very quick, let's say about that, 5 seconds faster than the race leader on that last lap. Unfortunately, quite detached at the moment. Shognessi, by the way, was 3 seconds faster than the race leader. Unfortunately, he's 22 seconds behind. So it might take him a little while to catch up to the drivers ahead. But of course, we are at the halfway. We are at the halfway mark. 3 hours and 37 seconds into the race. And so yeah, we've got the second half of the race to look forward to, and hopefully it's just as exciting, if not more exciting, than the first half. We haven't been short on too much to say, and of course it's been great to hear from you drivers. And it's dark. I think we can say that's dark. Yeah, there's a little bit of light in the sky, a little bit of pink, which of course I praise iRacing a lot, and I do get very frustrated by iRacing, but there's no doubt that the daylight transitions are very good. And it's difficult to imagine that we coped for so long with these endurance races despite not having these day-night transitions involved. Of course, previously this would have just been either an all-night race or just an all-day race, but fortunately we have now got this transition, and it does look absolutely superb. We are coming up to a break quite soon, so just keep an eye out on that. We will soon be inviting Adam Barr to have a chat with us. And Sam Kuma did warn earlier on, our current cameraman, that the puns will increase tenfold later on once Adam is in the commentary box with us. So hopefully you've enjoyed these first 3 hours with just the dairy fun so far, because it could get a whole lot worse. But we had the first half of the race in the books, and yeah, still plenty of challenges for these drivers to go. But so far, the attrition rate's been pretty good. We've got 3 of the DP cars seemingly permanently out, but with Makoni Motorsport seemingly taking back to the track quite soon, we've still got 9 cars running.
Yeah, saw the race leader in the lane there as well. I think that's just a scheduled stop though, so no issues for them. But yeah, it's been quite good racing despite the relatively small field. The DP battle has settled down a little bit now, but that was quite close for a long time. And the GTE field is just when you think it's settled down and someone's sort of extending a bit of a lead in that class, they seem to get caught up in some adventures or the way that the pit stop cycles are playing out in those cars is sort of it's sort of switched up a little bit. Early in the race, those GTE cars all were pitting on the same lap, but now it's with various adventures and repairs and things like that. That's unusual if we do see them on the lane at the same time. So it's been some good battles and great to hear from drivers, as you said. Hear about how there's just the different experience levels that they have and why they wanted to get involved with the event. So, if anyone has just tuned in, obviously Sim Racers for Mental Health is the organiser for the event, and we're looking at William on screen here now. He's the organiser for this particular event, and they're trying to raise some money for epilepsy awareness. If you'd like to contribute to that cause, there's a link in the video description on how you can get involved in helping them out. And we have seen William have a pretty adventurous stint in the car, but he's still out there circulating and trying to bring the car home in relatively one piece, ready for the next stint.
I mean, if of course this is Sim Racers for mental health, but just watching William Kushka, I feel like I've developed anxiety, to be honest, because I'm absolutely terrified that he's going to crash at any moment. The car on the limit at all times, so I feel like this whole operation's been a bit counterproductive. As oh dear, it's just honestly that rear end. It's as though there's those donkeys in pantomimes which have 2 people, one at the head and one at the rear. It feels as though 2 different people are driving the front half of the car and the rear half of the car, because it's completely all over the place at the moment. And once again, another slide. And it'll be interesting once you get his teammates into that car, see how they cope with it, because it didn't seem to be too problematic earlier on, but I don't think you can put it down to William. I don't think there's anything that he's doing there. It's just really quite a snappy car at the moment out there. But like we said, he's still running in the podium places, albeit 2 laps down on the next car currently.
Yeah, given that we're running mainly on the oval layout here, it's probably safe to say that the car is evil. As a lot of the oval guys like to explain their cars from time to time when they're not handling so friendly. They like to say that the car is evil. So back to our race leading car, Daniel Dye has now jumped in the car, and we spoke to Daniel just before. Starting to do a bit of road racing. He explained he runs in a Whelan oval, short track oval series in real life. So good to see him getting some experience of the Daytona circuit. He also explained he lives quite close by to the track and able to attend the events there. So events like this just piquing his interest even more in the Rolex 24, which he said he'll be attending again. So good to see that crossover between real life and sim. It's a little bit of a moment in the bus stop there, but thankfully was able to just straighten the car up and get it over the grass.
He seems to be pretty good in this car. Of course, he said they didn't have too much experience in road racing, but it does rallycross, so I'm sure that will be quite useful for him. That's BMW or MW, because I think about a third of it has fallen off, unfortunately, off the front of that car. Not sure who that was. Was that enter name here? No, it was H&H Racing. Steve Rado, who's had a tough stint out there. His first stint of the race, I believe. And from going from the lead for H&H Racing, they have fallen back. Of course, Jeremy Stanley. Don't know why I keep on saying Jeremy. Apologies. Too European. Jeremy Stanley did all the laps earlier on, but yeah, been a tough stint for Rada. Had a few offs, and seemingly has quite severely hurt that BMW. So hopefully we'll see that car back out on cycle, but I think it will need some repairs before we do it. Of course, we were talking earlier on about the damage model, and that's a perfect example of when it'd be quite good just to have a spare parts on the side of the pit lane, and you just bolt that on and go as quick as you like, rather than kind of the iRacing method of buffing it out and taking quite a while. But well, fingers crossed that we have some kind of progress on that.
They're at the pit exit and rejoin the track, so...
Oh, cool.
Not
Maybe
sure.
that's what they do already.
Not sure if we can see if their car has been repaired significantly or not. I'm sure we'll see that soon. Just looking at Lawrence Shaughnessy, who's come through to P2 in that class. And we saw Derek Holland in that car for quite a long stint at the start of the race. Not sure if Lawrence is going to do a similarly long stint or not. We'll have to see.
Of course, one of the issues with missing the front of your car, as the BMW was earlier on, but not anymore, Steve Gardner has the front of that car back. Of course, it's night, and the heads are on the front of the car, and so you can't see a whole lot when you don't have the front of your car attached. But he's got them back now, and those beams will illuminate the surface in front of him. Will navigate his way to check flag, hopefully, but you can see he's kind of just struggling a little bit on the brakes. The BMW, pretty drivable car, though. It's kind of known as the most drivable of the BMWs. It's a bit like the Mercedes in the GT3 category. Kind of the car that you can always rely. It's going to be decent with the BOP. It's not got any big weaknesses. You can get a setup up and running quite quickly. So kind of the go-to car for beginners, I think, on the most part. Of course, it is very, very large, as you can probably see. So, plus, if you feel like going side by side with someone, you certainly do have the upper hand should you make contact. And of course, if you're doing multi-class racing as well, should feel pretty good even against maybe the faster cars. But so rather good to see him back out there. Did drop now 2 minutes off the lead. So it's turning into a little bit of a two-way battle now for the win in the GT class. I mean, it could easily change. Jeremy Stanley, if he gets back into the car, could be very quick. Or if Rada finds a bit of a turn of speed, he could certainly still win this race. But it's looking very strong either for Ice Dragons Racing, IDR Red, or Indy Autosport Petite Road. Of course, we've also got these guys. Drew Becker is in the Enter Name Here car, taking back over from Timo Schwark about 20 laps ago. And he has been setting some pretty good times, low 44s, high 43s, as far as I can see. No issues whatsoever for him. Although, actually, on that last lap, I think he lost about 10 seconds, did Becker, so maybe a little bit of a spin for him. Though he may have made a pit stop, but no, seems to have just lost 9 seconds a couple of laps ago, but back on his way now. This is his 105th lap. The DP should be reaching about 200 laps by the end of this event. Usually get about 850 completed over the course of the Daytona 24 hours, so They really ought to know the circuit pretty well by the end of this event. And if it wasn't dark before, it is certainly dark now. So a good end to this race. And also the track temperature, by the way, down to 21 degrees, air temperature 19. So it should, by the end of the race, and maybe even within an hour, to get down to 18 degrees track temperature, which is the minimum it can go to.
You can see a little bit of damage on the race leader there, and there's been a little bit of chatter between the teams in the last few minutes. There may have been a bit of contact between the leader and I'm not sure, another car, but perhaps that might have been why the Enter Name Here car was a little slower on that lap as well. I'm not sure we didn't quite catch it, but yeah, a little bit of damage there to the leaders. The car still seems to be handling okay. It's a little bit of a slide through the hairpin there, but that's kind of been the norm for that car the whole race. They've been driving it reasonably aggressive. Daniel still, he did a 41.3 last time around, so it's not as quick as the car was earlier, but still a reasonable pace. He makes his way back onto the oval. You can see the headlights being quite effective out there now, and just got a couple of DP cars quite close together here. So Jack Dolmage in P2 in that class. Been a little while since we've seen that car actually. It's just sort of been quietly doing his thing. A 140.0 last time out, so a bit faster than the car that's out there in the lead. But quite a significant back gap to try and pull back if they were going to mount any challenge.
Yeah, it opened up to, it was about 2 minutes after the first hour or so, and then it's kind of just crept up since then. I'd say it's crept up. I mean, it has expanded by over a minute since then, but of course, over the course of 2 hours, that's not a whole lot. Steve Ryder, they're off, taking the rallycross circuit, the dummy lap. Unfortunately, the drivers don't have that option during the race. I mean, I'm sure that would spice up the Daytona 24 hours if they could take a shortcut at some point. But not the case. Unfortunately, we can't. The rallycross circuit completely separate to the. Oh, there's Rada. Is that his 4th spin at that corner? Really hates that corner, as I said earlier on. But of course, the rallycross circuit completely separate to this circuit. Of course, you have to load up a completely different kind of map and stuff. So, unfortunately, you can't take the rallycross circuit when you feel like it. That would certainly be quite a hazard on the inside of the circuit if you had the jump there. So, no, unfortunately, just had to go by. Of course, there is also the bike layout, I believe it's called, which I've never done a race round. There's also the mega short layout, which is just the inside roads course. But we've also got the bike layout. Have you ever tried the bike layout around this track, Brad? Because it's I don't know what events it's used for in real life. I guess bikes, but I mean I don't think it's used very often, and I've never seen it used in sim racing before.
Yeah, I definitely haven't come across that layout myself, so we'll have to have a look to see what the exact differences are there. But there are a couple of tracks which do have moto layouts on iRacing. Barcelona basically has like the moto layout. It's recently been added.
Of course, Indianapolis. I don't know if you tried the Indianapolis bike circuit, but that is a bad circuit. In my opinion, at least. It used to host MotoGP, of course, until a couple of years ago. But that is a tricky circuit. Of course, anti-clockwise. A lot of long, medium-speed corners around that place. Oh, Daniel Dye with a spin. Picked up some damage earlier on in his stint. Not quite as faultless as his teammates were earlier on, it seems. As he runs a little bit wide again. Fortunately, that barrier kind of disappears quite early on, but He's struggling a little bit at the moment, is Daniel, just for a bit of confidence. Has got decent lap times though, 41's a couple of seconds off his teammates, but I mean that's not too far off.
Yeah, as we explained, it's more of an oval background, so might just be struggling a little bit on the road, but looks like he's doing a decent job. Car does look like it might be perhaps not handling quite as well as it was earlier with that damage, but he's been able to gather it back up and see if he can sort of get some consistency happening again there. Just looking earlier, we had the Ice Dragons Racing IDR red car on screen. Look like they're potentially having a few connection issues from time to time. We've already seen one of the cars retire with a connection issue earlier, so just never know what might happen in these races, even though they're leading that class at the moment. I don't want to wish anything upon them like that, but just seeing the car sort of blinking with a connection issue from time to time, I'd be perhaps getting a bit nervous if I was in that team, watching that happen.
Yeah,
and
there'll
obviously
be
that can change depending on the driver that's in the car at that time. So hopefully Aaron's connection can hold on for his stint.
And Aaron's been one of their quickest drivers. In fact, he probably has been their quickest driver. So they'll be quite reluctant to kind of take him out of the car because he's doing some good job. He's doing a good job at the minute. And not Sean Nessie is, well, that gap now up to 45 seconds. So it is expanding. Some really good lap times being set by Aaron currently, which is playing some nice distance. Just as I say that, he goes off the circuit, but not too much time lost at that turn one. Very easy to do. Of course, got Jeff Pogo to overtake, who of course is the leader out of the GT3 drivers. The only GT3 car, apologies, which is currently out on circuit. Plus earlier on we had the crash for Marconi Motorsports, Marconi Motorsports, Jeffrey Marconi, the one who unfortunately puts it into the wall, had to take a lot of repairs. It was a shame as well because these two teams were very evenly matched. The team Mandycar did have an advantage in terms of track position by about a minute and a half, but certainly it seems the Marconi team could maybe challenge late on. Unfortunately, they picked up some damage, had to replace the engine, and they should be back out on circuit within certainly the next half an hour or so. We hope to see them back on track. But yeah, Pogo about to get overtaken then by the BMW down the next straight. Just a reminder, if you want to have a chat with us in the commentary box, pop into our Discord. I'm sure there's the link somewhere up on the YouTube chat. It'd be great to have a chat with you, even if you've already had a chat with us. It'd still be good. So if you've maybe been in the car since we last chatted to you, just see what the track conditions are like out there as this track gets a little bit cooler and the grip levels change, and of course drivers change out there on the circuit as well. And of course, just a reminder, of course, why we're here today. The Sim Racing for Mental Health organising this event for epilepsy awareness, and there is a link in the description which will give you the opportunity to donate any money that you've got. Anything would be very much appreciated to epilepsy awareness. But yeah, still 2 hours and 40 minutes left in this event. And I mean, seeing these cars go round at the moment, it's a great combination, this DP, GT, and GT3 cars. And of course, Apex Racing League, who we're relatively, well, we're very associated with, safe to say, kind of looking for cars to kind of mix together, perhaps in a multi-class league or something. But these cars just work so well together. They are quite evenly matched, but at the same time, there's kind of 3 seconds between each of them. And for events like this, it seems to be quite adequate.
Yeah, I mean, these cars, obviously the ones we see in the IMSA series. We broadcast the Australian or Oceanic time slot on Tuesday evenings here on FX Racing TV with these classes of cars, and yeah, it does provide some great racing. There's three very different cars, like in the way you have to drive them. Obviously, the prototype, not having ABS, it makes that quite challenging under brakes, particularly when you're running a low downforce setup like we're running here at this track. You've got a lot of power in that car. Some tracks, tyre conservation can come into play, particularly on the longer races. And then we've got the GTEs, which probably a little more predictable to drive. Even the Porsche, which can be a little unruly on some tracks with its weight distribution, it's still probably a bit easier to drive than the prototype. Just quite a bit of downforce on these cars, and the traction control generally does a little bit better job of taming the acceleration on the GTE cars compared to that on the prototype. But they do have they are missing ABS as well, so it can still be quite a challenge under braking. And the GT3 cars, so really strong in a straight line, as we just saw before around the oval, pretty much on par with the GTE cars for straight line speed. Not as much downforce, so cornering speed is not quite there. They rely a bit more on mechanical grip, and but they do have ABS, so can attack the corners quite aggressively in those cars. Particularly with the Mercedes, it's very stable under braking compared to perhaps the Ferrari or the Audi in the GT3s. So it's quite a popular option on the longer format events. I did see quite a few of them in the race in the Spa 24, which I was in. My team actually chose to drive the Mercedes in that event. I think that might have been the first race I'd done in the Mercedes actually, but yeah, it was quite a comfortable car to drive over a long stint, I found.
Tough race that, the Spa 24 hours. I've done it twice, or maybe even 3 times. I think I've done it twice, and it's very competitive. I mean, everyone kind of knows where they stand with the GT3 car. Of course, a lot of drivers familiar with the official series, as we have a cloud of smoke there, which is quite ominous at the top of the oval. But I don't think anyone's got involved in a big wreck out there. Well, that may have just been a disappearance from Mathieu, actually. But yeah, that Spa 24 hours, very tricky race there. And of course, Spa as well, very close barriers around most of the circuit. You got some open areas, Pouhon, for example, but even then you can manage to hit the wall. It's not quite like Daytona, where you got quite vast expanses for much of the track. How did you do in the Spa 24?
I think we finished 7th in our split.
Oh, nice one.
I mean, quite a low split, obviously. I only joined iRacing season 2 this year, so. But yeah, we had a pretty strong run. I did the later time slot, which unfortunately had the incident limit removed after other sort of politics around everything that happened with that in the morning.
Well, I mean, it's better than 44 incidents, I guess.
Yeah, I think some teams obviously sort of took the mickey out of it a little bit and exploited that, but I just basically drove the race as if the original, limit of sort of 300 was just what we thought was meant to have. I just pretty much assumed that that was still there and drove it like that, and I still gained SR after the event because I only used a small amount of instance. Well, I know a lot of other drivers racked up 200 and 300 or more each, and as a result, they had a quite hefty penalty applied to their license after that race. I think a lot of people were shocked to see the result of that. But anyway, yeah, it was a good race. Obviously, that one's not multi-class, so just that in itself was quite different, not having to deal with the different speeds of cars and everyone being very competitive. But yeah, great racetrack. Always love the opportunity to drive there. Unfortunately, I haven't driven there in real life. I have been lucky enough to drive a few tracks overseas, but not that one. I did attend the Formula One race there in 2013. That was good. But, I haven't been to Daytona. Definitely would like to see a race there. I've been lucky to drive a couple laps around Laguna Seca. That was quite good. And I've been to the oval track at Vegas. I did see a NASCAR race there. So yeah, seen a couple of American tracks, but not Daytona yet.
I mean, if you had the choice, Rolex 24 or the 500? Because I mean, personally, I'd probably like to see the 500 just because it's quite a legendary race. Of course, the 24 hours of Daytona absolutely legendary as well. But no, just yeah, NASCAR is pretty immense.
Yeah, it's definitely a great spectacle. Having 40 odd of those cars roaring around, you can feel it. You feel it in your chest when they go past. It's quite an experience. I definitely would recommend for anyone that's a motorsport fan, even if they're not a big oval fan, to go and experience one of those races if they can. It's really good. If I hadn't already seen a NASCAR event, I probably would choose the 500 over the 24. But having been to one already, and I'm a big endurance fan, I definitely would like to attend the 24. That would be good, particularly with the driver lineups they get there. There's a lot of people that sort of come out of the woodwork and jump on a team for the Rolex 24 who don't necessarily do a lot of those formats of races. So yeah, be interesting to see who turns up next year.
Yeah, should certainly be. By the way, we might have a changeover because I think we can speak to Adam Barr right now. He should be in the commentary box.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, we're 3.5 hours into this race, as you've probably seen. Have you got control of the cameras now?
Oh, where's he going? Where's
Oh.
Daniel Dye going? More importantly,
A different route, safe to say. Oh, he's found a different route. I mean, he barely lost at any time there. Might need to exploit that in the future. But yeah, have you got control of the cameras now? Then
I've taken control off Sam Kumo, and I am at your disposal for the next 2.5 hours. So, thanks to Sam Kumo for filling in for the first half.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, so we don't have to have any downtime or anything.
No, part 2 is up and running, so we'll say goodbye to our viewers on part 1. But if you want to watch the concluding 2.5 hours, come over to the part 2 stream, which is going now, and we'll be able to carry on from there.
Awesome.
And the link for part 2 is in the chat for on the part 1 stream before that closes off. Adam?
Thank you very much. Yeah, a bit of trouble getting the stream up. A bit of difficulty on the railway as well. Hence why the changeover was a bit later than originally planned. So thanks to Sam for filling in for those for that extra 45 minutes or so.
Yes, and also we might have the correct cameras now installed.
Oh yeah, I did get you updated. I did
awesome. Thank you very much.
Message. So I believe we are on the correct cameras.
So yeah, like we said, 2.5 hours to go in this race. I mean, I guess Adam, of course, Daytona. This combination of is this a replay?
That's him doing it again.
Wow. I mean, when I said maybe there's an advantage there, I wasn't being totally serious, but I mean, he's not losing much time doing that at the moment. But yeah, Adam, this combination, I mean, on Apex Racing TV, we've broadcast quite a few times around here. Of course, BSRTC always has its season finale around this track, so it's certainly legendary on Apex Racing TV.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, plenty of crazy season finales here over the past. I think the biggest one was 2015, where we had the title decided pretty much in the bus stop chicane on the final lap of the final race. So yeah, this track has been known to throw a bit of controversy. Just on Daniel Dye doing an interesting configuration of the circuit. We were doing me, Alex Simpson, and Andrew Woodhouse were doing the 24 Hours of Le Mans a couple of years ago, and our car was so badly damaged that we were basically, I'm pretty sure I can say this now, we were basically cutting the chicanes, and our car was so slow in a straight line that by the time we got to the end of each part of the Mulsanne straight, we would be able to serve the slowdown penalty in time.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's how bad the car was in the end. We were great in the Porsche curves. It was just on the Mulsanne where we were really coming unstuck.
I mean, you're probably flat out through the Porsche curves, I imagine. Absolutely storming around those corners.
True. Yeah, it is true. We were able to gain about 2 seconds on this guy in front of us at one point, and then he just breezed by us on the Mulsanne straight. Right then, yeah, fill me in. What's been for viewers that might have just joined us as well? Yeah, what's been going on in the first 3.5 hours here?
Well, we've had RLB racing for in the DP category at least, kind of dominating so far. About 2 minutes 40 clear of Jack Jack Dolmage in the GTSL red car. There he is on screen. And yeah, so those two fights are for the DP lead. We have had quite a few DPs. Unfortunately, 2 of them retired quite early on. Blake Trewick, unfortunately, retired. And William Krushka seemingly stuck in the pits at the moment. Brad, do we know what happened to William out there? He was struggling out there, there's no doubt about that. But I didn't see a terminal damage for him.
I think it could just be a longer stop due to the damage that car was carrying, and just the way it's been handled, and they might finally perhaps elected to take all the repairs, perhaps before they didn't.